Okay, this is the June chat with fans. I was kind of dreading this one because I really thought I'd have a new video out by now. In fact, my original plan was like, oh yeah, I'll have this wrapped up by Saturday, and then there was a small snag, but even without that, I realized I was still underestimating things. And my original plan from that was, okay, I'll release this video chat like as soon as it's done and then have the video out tomorrow. Now I'm thinking even that's unrealistic. So current plan for the new video is on Tuesday. I'll have the video chat probably out on Monday, and then, because I hate having the video chat like right after a new video, because then I feel like that kind of buries it a little bit. And for everyone upset there hasn't been a new video, my apologies. And this goes double because the video I'm coming out now actually might have involved more editing than any other video I've done. I mean, not advanced editing, just a lot of small things. That's why it just keeps going on and on and on. It's hundreds of simple things, maybe thousands, that it all seems approachable. It's like, oh, I just have to do this, oh yeah, this, and this, okay, and then it just goes on like that forever, is what's been happening these past couple weeks. So, but yeah, to make matters worse, not everyone's going to be interested in this one. However, I'd say though, this next one's really kind of like a giant Ross Rants episode, though I'm probably going to title it differently to try to get more clicks. But, yeah, but some people I think will find it. This is another one of those where I think some people find it really interesting, even if the majority may not. However, as soon as I'm done with that, I'm gonna just try to get the follow-up episode out for Game Dungeon as fast as I can. I mean, not without rushing it. That one's for sure gonna be easier and quicker. Still not easy or quick, but the nice thing about that one is I can just stop it anywhere, really, because there's gonna be a fourth follow-up too. I mean, there's way too much to pile in. And then I'll try to get what? Someone's saying I hope it's VR related. Not really. This next one coming out, though there is a VR cameo in there. Yeah, after that I'll try to get a normal Game Dungeon and maybe see about Freeman's Mind. Actually, the echo should be less now than it was, though it's still, there's still more I need to do to dampen the sound. I really want to go for like maximum sound dampening before I do Freeman's Mind, because some things that give like a little bit of a echo or reverb, at normal volumes, it becomes just way more apparent at louder ones. And at some point I'll just have to deal with it, but I think there's more I can do. So let's see. Any chance of you working on narrative stuff before the movie gets finished? Possibly, but there's so many things I'm trying to do here. So I'm just taking the approach of not panicking about how everything I'm trying to do and just throw myself at it as much as I can and just get as much done as I can and hope that it all eventually works out. However, at some point, I'm going to have a breaking point where I just have to say hell with everything and just do nothing but the movie. So, but I'm not there yet. I want to get more videos out for you guys. So, let's see. What? Okay, yeah, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, just next Game Dungeon. I really hope it'll be out this month. I mean, but however, the follow-ups are some of the more time-intensive ones. So, however, it's going to be it's totally going to be easier than how long this one took. Yeah, this next one's probably going to be about 75 to 80 minutes. I don't know exactly because I still have to do the credits and do a little bit of timing. I mean, the thing's like 95% edited, but that last 5%, I realize I cannot underestimate it, how long that's going to take me. So, let's see. I guess I don't really have any other announcements. I'm just kind of going to keep working relentlessly on things. I'll try to have, oh yeah, this is an idea I had at the last minute. Several people emailed me in the past 24 hours. There's this gigantic game bundle at itch.io. It's like 740 games for $5. Now, I browsed through that, Yeah, this is just a side streaming idea I had. And it looked like the vast majority of those games I am not interested in. But there were a couple I were. I was thinking, would people like to see me do a live stream where I just go through, I think I could knock this out in like an hour or two. I just go through the entire list of the games and I'll just like eliminate them, explain why, just bam, bam, bam. Like you can see my thought process. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll play this one. Okay, this one I'll play. I'd be surprised if I'll come out with even more than like 15 games max that I'm like would consider out of that pack. So this will be sort of like my own personal garbage filtering. You know, so if you want to see how my thought processes work when I do games. So yeah, no, I'm not doing that today. That's coming out after the video. So, but like, yeah, somebody's saying Action 52 all over again. Yeah. However, I think there's some stuff in there that's possibly good, but the for me personally, the garbage to worthwhile ratio is pretty high at that game pack. But yeah, well, people are talking about the GOG sale too. I guess I'm mentioning this one because 740 games for $5. Well, it's like a charity drive thing. I haven't checked at all where the money is going. So, I mean, yeah, I mean it's for a Black Lives Matter thing, but that can mean anything for where the money's going. So I'm neither endorsing it nor coming out against it because I have zero. I don't have time to research that. But it's not every day you see hundreds of games for a few dollars. So yeah, I might do a stream where I just go through everything. I bet I could filter out like what I'm probably gonna play or at least check out. I bet I could knock that out. I bet I could go through hundreds of games within, or the presentation of them within an hour or two. So I might do that as a streaming thing. I'd like to do more streaming stuff, although I may backtrack a little bit what I said. I think I want to save the Dark Souls stuff until the weather cools off. Everything about Dark Souls strikes me as not a like summer weather kind of games. That sounds more like fall, winter kind of stuff. So I may hold off on that, but I'll still do that. If I have time, I'll try and do more streaming like the game or something else. But I've just been, all I've been doing lately is just trying to get this video done. I mean, first it was the move. And well, I'm still not fully recovered. Yeah, Box Apocalypse from last month is probably down to a quarter of what it was before, I guess. But Box Apocalypse is still ongoing. Yeah, okay, so I may try to cut this one short just so I can get back to finishing the video. Again, I'm embarrassed this video is going on as long as it is. However, the good news is this is a one-off video. I have no intentions at all to make a sequel, a follow-up, or anything. However, this is one I felt like really compelled to make. And it's that struggle where it's, see, the thing is, I wrote the video in a matter of days. It's just the actually turning a script into something that's, you know, digestible and easy to watch. It's coming out with all that content that's just the part that just takes forever. And that's sort of the same thing with the movie, is that it's that by an order of magnitude, you know. Okay, yeah, questions, and then again, I may skip a few more this time just to save time, but well, last time the video chat went on forever, so I'll maybe average out. Okay, top question, and I'll take live chats at the end. Has the amount of beans you've on average eaten changed during the quarantine, or has it remained about the same? No, it's unfortunately increased. I've also been eating like lots of sort of whole wheat pasta, just kind of these real minimal meals, some canned vegetables, that sort of thing. I'm getting kind of sick of it, to be honest. I don't particularly enjoy cooking, and the fact that it's time consuming when there's all this other stuff I need to be doing just sort of compounds the problem. So no, I have been eating a lot of beans. Well, basically beans and onions when I kind of try to add. Yeah, although it's worse now than it used to be, because in the past I was adding tortilla chips, and something they changed in the formula. I think maybe it's the oil they're using. Like every single brand here, my skin reacts to it. Like I have an allergic reaction now. I think it might be sunflower oil. I don't know. So it's like I can't really add the tortilla chips, so I just sort of add just some sort of random cracker things that I'm maybe not allergic to. I don't know. So it's not as tasty as it used to be. The tortilla chips kind of tied it together. So, let's see. But yeah, it's not a lot of fine dining for me during the quarantine here. And let's see. Okay, it seems to me your most beloved episodes of Game Dungeon seem to be ones where you take the audience on a 1 hour long odyssey through odd, semi-obscure point-and-click adventure games from the 90s. Do you have any plans of making more episodes like that in the future? Maybe. I can't remember off the top of my head. I have a first-person shooter planned after the follow-up episode. And then after that, I just have to figure out what I was thinking. Like my plans come and go and evaporate with like what's next for Game Dungeon. So let's see. Well, you see, that's your favorite. I'd have to look at the numbers to see what are people's favorites or not. But yeah, I mean, I could there's certainly more I could do like that. In fact, there's some games I kind of want to play that might lend themselves to that. Yeah, actually, one game I started playing and it had stuff going for it, but like for some adventure games, I'm noticing that if the gameplay isn't quite good enough, it's making me want to just go and watch a playthrough of the rest of it rather than actually play it. Because like, oh yeah, the story is interesting, nice art, but yeah, this gameplay isn't very good. However, while I was playing it, I just kept having these ideas that this might make a pretty good Game Dungeon episode. So yeah, that might happen. Though it's not a 90s adventure game. This one would be more modern. But I like the comments that were coming to the thoughts that were coming to my head, I think people might like it. It's sort of, I was definitely enjoying it more than that, but sort of like when I played Life is Strange, I started having just all these thoughts in my head that I thought, okay, you know what, I'll just make an episode on this. So. Okay, so yeah, I don't even know what's happening with Game Dungeon past the next 2 episodes. I'll figure it out. I'll figure out when I get there, you know. Let's see. Oh yeah. This might be the least satisfying answer out of the questions I saw. You seem to have a perspective on a wide range of topics beyond games, from environmentalism, sustainability to economics. What are some books or anything that influenced you, gave you perspective, and or shaped the way you think, your ideas, beliefs, mindsets, etc., and how? The easy answer is I don't know, and I have to stop and think, and then even things I'm thinking of feel like they're not really like this hugely influential moment. However, I will say one thing that got me kind of thinking was back in Civil Protection, when it was at the Oils Well episode, there was a Machinima environmental contest that I made that for because I felt kind of bad they didn't have more entries. So I thought, okay, well, I'll try and pick a topic that I think, might be the most serious. And the more I learned about the oil situation, the more that it's like I sort of knew it already, but that started sort of waking me up to like just how fragile and how much things have changed rapidly in the past, century or two regarding civilization, that it's like, wow, a whole lot of things that have been true for almost all of human history may cease being true. Or just be so radically different than anything we've had a historical perspective for. And that sort of got me along other thoughts. So making that video did it. But I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say it's like a culmination of like lots of different sort of like news articles or magazine entries or stuff like that on various topics I'm interested in that can form my different thoughts. I mean, look, I'll be honest, on some topics, I'm rather ignorant on. I tend to just sort of seek out things that sort of interest me more. And I don't know, things that sort of determine like what history is going to look like. And I mean, like what the future is going to look like, or just how our entire society is structured. Yeah, that tends to interest me. Sort of blurring the line between reality and science fiction, that sort of thing. Whereas, like take like foreign affairs. I'm very. I don't tend to follow much information on that at all. Like, and again, some events will catch my attention. Like, for example, I noticed, I think it was a year or two back, when like Russia started accepting the yuan, or however it's pronounced, the Chinese currency as payment for oil. I was like, whoa, that could be a major influencing step down the line. But like there are other things like let's say like lots of border conflicts. I admit I don't know what's going on half the time. I only have so many hours in the day, so I kind of have to choose what I spend my time looking up. Well, actually, I even remember that in the past. Like, yeah, back when I had newspapers. I mean, I guess some people still get them now, but some parts of the news would interest me way more than others. It's like, well, some conflict at a border. It's like, I don't know. Whereas other topics like that suggest our entire system, like our entire economic system might be changing. I don't know. That would get my attention more, that sort of thing. So I don't have a good answer to that question. Sorry. And actually, this just gave me sort of like a dark thought. I remember this Life is Hell comic, by Matt Groening, the creator of The Simpsons. And in it, there's this old guy like lying in this hospital bed, and he's thinking, how the hell did I get here? And there's a certain amount of that. So, like... okay, so yeah, should move on with questions. If you had to choose any 3 weapons to use in every game, but could only use those 3, which would you choose? Yeah, this is one where the audience might be able to help. Yeah, the chat. Ross, you like video games? Yes. The audience might be able to help because I'm sure there's several weapons I'm unaware of in games. I guess from a generic standpoint, I would just want some sort of semi-automatic rifle gun from a shooter, because that takes care of you in so many situations. I guess you'd want some extreme like long-range weapon, like a sniper rifle, and then you want just some big explosive weapon for like the really big stuff. So just speaking generically, but those aren't necessarily the most fun. I was thinking, okay, here's one where I'm sure there's a better answer, but this is what's coming to mind. I really did kind of like that grenade launcher in Strife. The one, where it's like you shoot out 2 at a time and they bounce around and they do a lot of damage. Look, I meant what I said there. I like kind of unwieldy weapons that are just massively powerful. So it's like, it's a little dangerous to use them, but man, that just increases their appeal. Because it's like, man, if they hurt me that much, if things go wrong, just think about what they're doing to the enemy, So I definitely like that. And there's several weapons like that in games, but that one, like, some of those are really slow too, and I don't like that. I'm thinking of like the Avril and Unreal Tournament 2004, or the rocket launcher in PlanetSide 2. Like, I mean, they do a lot of damage, but man, they're slow reloading, and I don't mind if it takes, or like there's that, I barely remembered it, but I think there's like the mini nuke launcher in Fallout 3, maybe sequels. So somebody's saying Warhammer 40k las gun, las rifle. That might be a good choice. But So I don't mind if there's like a delay between shots, but not too much, because then it's sort of you have to save it for really special occasions. Whereas, well, I don't know. It depends what the enemies that are coming at you. But I also really remember, I remember really enjoying, this was in the Painkiller Battle Out of Hell expansion. They had this sort of, it was like this multiple crossbow bolt rifle where it would shoot out 4 and just kind of staggered pattern, and then the alternate fire would shoot out these kind of bouncing metallic balls that would just explode. Like you could just clear a hallway like it was nothing with that. I remember that being quite satisfying to use. Yeah, so I was talking about the penetrator from Fear, but I don't know, with Fear, I don't know, I remember there being kind of a bit, maybe I'm imagining it, I remember it being like a bit of a delay with that. So, I don't know, it wasn't quite as responsive as I liked. But yeah, that was a good weapon. Fear actually had my second favorite shotgun. My favorite one might be even hard to access now. It was from this mod for Half-Life called Desert Crisis, and they had the SPAS 12, and that thing just had the that had the stopping power of what you'd have expect of a real shotgun. And kind of similar range too. And I think they patched it later to weaken it because a lot of people complain about it. I love the thing. I mean, it was again, it had the stopping power of probably quite similar to a real SPAS 12. In fact, I remember like a joke I would say like in the forums of the chat, like, no, it's like when somebody shoots you in the head with a SPAS 12, you're supposed to live, like, just kind of mocking the complaints about it. I mean, but I'm sure there's so many I'm not thinking of because, like, for example, I haven't played the Resistance series, and my understanding is those have a lot of exotic weapons in those. But yeah, I guess I like dangerous, big, explosive weapons, and I like just a normal semi-automatic rifle in a game because that just works in so many different situations. It's like you don't always have to have the most wacky and exotic themed weapons for the game to be fun. So, all right, I should keep moving on here. You can ask anything to future Ross from 2030. What would you ask him? That'd be pretty easy. Not a very interesting answer. Just say, hey, anything I should watch out for or should maybe do differently that I'm not going to do well? And just leave it to future me to give advice. I mean, that they're going to have better perspective on it than I will. And I could probably have enough wisdom to not, not give myself too much of a false confidence. Where like, say you have so much confidence something's going to happen that you don't take all the steps you would to take to make it happen, so that you actually, but by believing it's going to happen, you actually make it not happen. So I'd probably be wary of that. But I could say, yeah, get out of here by this date, or just say, or yeah, don't, like when this guy knocks on your door, like in a month, so it was sometime in February, I remember, don't answer it, or something like. And I'd be like, okay, cool. And like that would just kind of take it on blind faith there. So, yeah, no, I don't need to spoil the future for, I mean, I don't need the certainty, I like the sort of mystery of it. But yeah, I figure future me might have some advice of things I should or maybe shouldn't do, so. Okay, let's see. Oh, have you ever considered doing a video on Deus Ex Mankind Divided? I will answer all this in the next Game Dungeon, the follow-up episode. You'll hear my thoughts on that. So, keep moving along. Oh yeah, this is another one I don't have a great answer for, but maybe some cause for hope. What are some of your favorite video game soundtracks? look, I can give some of the answers I've already given before. The problem is I'm falling more and more behind. See, I'm doing so many things now. At some point, I've run out of time to work on other things. So music has been one of those that's unfortunately been kind of sacrificed. So a lot of my favorite stuff is stuff like way in the past. So I mean, it's stuff I've answered in other video chats like Unreal, Castlevania Symphony of the Night, Donkey Kong Country, Super Metroid. What were some other great soundtracks? Let's see now. I have to check my folder. Well, actually, I'm trying to think of one. Well, again, like the Rama series. Although, hey, you're gonna hear another one of my favorites coming up. And I don't want to spoil too much about that. But okay, somebody's saying I should check out Risk of Rain 2's soundtrack. Yeah, what I have been doing, I wish I'd started it sooner, but better late than never, is kind of like how I have my games list. I've started keeping a list. If I watch a game trailer, I think, wow, this music sounds really promising, or this could have a pretty good soundtrack. I make a note of that title. Like, even if I have no interest in the game, the music sounds good, I've started writing down the titles. Now, unfortunately, I've only started doing that about a year. So there's probably a whole gap when I just sort of got overwhelmed, like probably from the past decade, that I need to catch up on. Well, however, that's why I'm kind of just throwing all my energy at these one-off videos that I feel really compelled to make. Because then, oh great, that's done. I don't need to make another video on that or anything. That's out of the way, and then time I would have spent on that, I can maybe kind of eventually clear up more time for catching up on soundtracks. This is something I absolutely want to catch up on it. And actually, if I ever come up with my soundtrack organization system, I'll make a video on that. But I couldn't even make that one right now because I'd have to come up with the system. But so yeah, and I have to go through all those birthday emails that were sent to me of people recommending soundtracks. So I'm gonna catch up on it. It's just like but see, the thing is with soundtracks, that's gonna be an ongoing thing. I mean, assuming the world isn't on fire or something, I'm gonna be listening to soundtracks 20 years from now. So, but I'm. It kind of stings how I've fallen so far behind on music. But it's I try to keep moving forward on it. But keeping that list gives me hope because then it's like I'm postponing it rather than missing out. You see, so I can kind of catch up on it later. I'm checking out more suggestions and okay, someone's saying the soundtrack of the trailer Tiny and Big. Okay, someone's saying Rad Rogers. Okay, Mother 3. Yeah, Earthbound soundtrack is interesting. Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of great Super Nintendo soundtracks. I mean, yeah, during that time era, I mean, a lot of well, actually, for MIDI music, Descent. I think if you ask me, like, what's the best MIDI soundtrack, I'd say, like, Descent 1 and 2. Like, they just did, that one's just fantastic. Okay, somebody sings Samurai Showdown, Black Mesa. Okay, yeah. Well, maybe I should save that for the streaming. Yeah, I tweeted about that game pack. I said, well, I didn't say I was only interested in 2 games, but there were at least 2 games I knew I was interested in. The 2 that I was interested in was Tonight We Riot and Dr. Lang something, a whirlwind heist. It's like this really long title. Those are both on my list. But there look like there might be some other promising ones in there. That's why I thought maybe I'll be surprised if there are more than 15 in there that I'm interested in. But even then, that could be 15 games I'm interested in for $5. So, but yeah, the music stuff, that's something I'm look, the music's probably going to take priority like after the movie, to be honest. Like that I finally get back around to rising back up from the ashes of being out of the loop for so long. But I'm keeping notes so I can return. Yeah. Oh yeah, this one might be a long answer. Okay. What do you think about the riots happening now in USA? Okay, well, I guess the first thing I should acknowledge that the internet may not be so good at grasping this is I think there are multiple causes behind the riots. I mean, I think sort of the narrative is that this is all just 100% a police brutality thing. That's it, and things only get examined through that lens. And I think this is definitely a multiple reasons behind it. But my first, really, the thought that kind of keeps coming back to me is in the robot jobs video I made. At one point, I say, well, we're going to have to do something or not. And then I said something like, we could just not address the problem and see how that goes. And I feel like that's really where we're going with this because, for sure what's kicked off the riots is a case of kind of extreme police brutality. But I've heard it described before that, it's sort of like it's kind of like a powder keg situation. You're not sure exactly what's going to ignite things, but, it can be a lot of different things. I think, okay, here's where I'm speculating here. I think for sure the pandemic and the unemployment not seen since the Great Depression is turning up the volume on everything. So, well, the camera freaked out there for a second, I thought. So, these are incidents where if all that wasn't going on, maybe there wouldn't be a riot. Or, there'd still be a lot of tension and still a lot of systemic problems, but it may not have risen to the point where a lot of people just can't stand things anymore. In fact, I would speculate, let's say, okay, let's rewind, as the pandemic's really breaking out and we're seeing the largest rise in unemployment ever, the largest spike. Let's say during that time, instead of just doing the $1,200 per person and then, one-time payment and then a massive bailout of Wall Street, instead, what we did was, all right, you know what? The system's collapsing. This isn't going to work. We're going to have to rethink how we're going to structure everything. In the meantime, fine. Universal basic income, until we can come up with something better. And because we have to react to this now. I think if we had done that, in March, I think there's a really high chance the riots might not even be happening. Because that would have, again, wouldn't have solved problems with police brutality or systemic racism, but it would, again, turn down the volume so much if everybody kind of feels like they're going to be okay, more or less. Or a lot more people feel like they're going to be okay. Plus, I was having that thought already, but then I realized this whole incident with George Floyd, it was kicked off by an arrest over trying to pass a counterfeit $20 bill. Well, if there had been let's say, was it $2,000 a month? Let's say if there had been, if everybody had $6,000 more in their pocket since then maybe a counterfeit $20 bill might not have even been in circulation, and the guy would have still be alive. Again, we'll never know. Of course, I'm speculating, but so that's part of my problem. It's too easy for me to envision alternate timelines where, hey, if this event went differently, then all these other events may or may not have happened, or different things would have flown from that. Now, I still kind of stand by what I said in a previous chat where I feel like universal basic income could be extremely vulnerable in the long term. But right now, it seems like almost, if you want to alleviate as much suffering as possible in the short term, with the pandemic and the unemployment. Somebody's saying he probably didn't know it was counterfeit. Well, yeah, maybe. I haven't checked the details on it. But the point is, it may not have even been circulating because it might not have even been worth the counterfeiter's effort if, everybody's getting enough money to get by each month. But, with UBI, I think it's very vulnerable without other protections. So sure, it helps a lot in the short term, but then in the long term, like all the landlords have raised rent by that amount, so that we're essentially just we're just kind of running in place. But in the middle of a global crisis or multiple crises, because there's a pandemic and there's the economic collapse, that it just seems like a no-brainer to implement it and then try to figure out, like, okay, how do we shore this up and make sure it works in the long term, that sort of thing. Well, somebody's saying it's really good policy even in the long term. Well, maybe, because again, is that question, okay, for sure it would do lots of good in the short term. In the long term, what prevents landlords from raising the rent to, like, over the course of 10 years, oh, look at that. The average cost of living just somehow went up by exactly the amount that UBI cost, Because in my experience, I haven't known landlords to not take opportunity collectively. This wouldn't happen like overnight or anything like that. But again, like over 10 years, like what would stop them from just, oh, they know now everybody has more money in their pocket. Well, you know what? I think I'm just going to raise my rent some more. And even the people that are like, no, I'm not going to do that. They see everyone else around them raising the rent, like the other landlords. And then they realize that the only people applying are maybe just people who may not be able to afford so much or can't get their act together. So he's only getting like it's like lowering the property value. So then they might raise it just to just kind of keep up with everyone else, that sort of thing. Whereas other people are just going to see like, how much can I raise the rent and still have it be paid for? So I think you would need, I don't know. I think UBI doesn't work by itself in the long term. I think you might need more. It needs more supports. Like a building. Some things can be perfectly stable if they're supported. But the thing is that another thought exercise I do is like take any problem that you can think of, and then imagine you have a magic lamp and you can solve that overnight. I think if we had a situation where let's see if we could solve like all police brutality and like systemic racism just overnight, we'd still have a ton of problems. We would still have Great Depression levels of unemployment. We'd still have the pandemic. And I think there's a real chance, even in that like sort of fantasy scenario, we might still be having riots that were something else broke out. Because like, okay, I kind of see this situation almost like a math problem here. I mean, okay, so we've gone to, I forget, we've seen, there's some debate about it, but there's some general agreement we're like near the height of unemployment in the Great Depression. So some statistics say it's higher than that, some say it's lower, but we're near those levels. And okay, so that's a major factor. We still have the pandemic out there that's going to kind of depress businesses. So like even if we just reopen everything right now, business is going to, like the economy is still going to stay kind of depressed. But I mean, yeah, you'll see a little bit of an uptick. But a lot of people are thinking, well, just because they say we're allowed to like go out to a concert or a theater or a restaurant, a lot of people are going to say, no, I'm not going out there. I don't want to get the virus. So that's going to depress industries. Plus, a lot of small businesses have been folding or going to fold. So it's like a perfect storm of all this economic turmoil. So, okay, so we have a situation where we have a massive spike in unemployment. We have the pandemic kind of depressing things. So it's become I don't see how we're going to have like a quick recovery if we ever recover to like the old normal. There's a possibility that may never happen, like how we define it. And we're not doing anything for the people who are getting laid off. I mean, we did the one-time $1,200 payment. That's what, a couple weeks for people? I mean, that's for a problem that's probably going to have an impact I heard somebody say, it was a YouTuber, that they thought of this less as an event like for a couple months, more like something that could define an era for the next 20 years. Yeah, even if we come up with a vaccine, like, you know, within a few months, the impact's already being felt. And that could, the pandemic has exposed other vulnerabilities in our system. And so I'm saying education is the classic silver bullet. Not really. I mean, like, okay, here, fine. A bit of a spoiler in the next, from the video that's coming out in a day or two. I saw an article recently pointing out that, like, that a lot of reporters for, I think it was Microsoft, MSN, like Microsoft News or something like that, they're being laid off and replaced by AI. So there's a whole lot of white collar jobs coming for, well, AI is coming for a lot of white collar jobs, or even now that companies are being forced to work from home, there are a lot of businesses are realizing, hey, you know what? We don't really need all the overhead. I think we can fire even more people because we don't need all this. We don't need to keep all these resources for the office. But yeah, we can do our business online. There are a lot of them, not all of them, obviously. But so look, this goes back to the robot jobs video. What do you do when you have a situation where there are more people who need work than there are jobs available? I mean, UBI is one answer to that. So people only need. I mean that like literally need work in the sense that that's how they can survive. That's how they can earn income to pay for basic needs. You know, like shelter, food, medicine, that sort of thing. If that's being provided for them other ways, well, then they don't need to work. They can, you know, they can lounge around or, you know, pursue hobbies, or hey, maybe do lots of work that's really valued, but it's not profitable work, like lots of volunteer stuff. Like, hey, they want to go help at like soup kitchens, or, you know, kind of do like trash pickup or stuff that like a lot we may not pay for, or plant trees, that sort of thing. You know, just kind of things that, or teach, like, you know, teach students in places where they can't afford it, that sort of thing. Stuff that's like, it's definitely valued work, but it's not really valued in our economic system. So, you know, it can free up for that. Or you can have, you know, jobs sponsored by, you know, tax money for that sort of, well, it's like what I said in the robot jobs video. But since we're not doing that, we're seeing the beginnings of the breaking point of our system that, hey, we're achieving kind of a critical mass here that needs a job or something to keep them afloat. We're not addressing it. So, getting back to my point, I'm rambling all over the place. The math problem is like, all right, we have just a complete sucker punch of unemployment, and we're not providing solutions as a system, not like real ones. So we're having a lot of people who, that's just going to increase the stress levels fanatically. So what's going to happen? Well, it's kind of like a pressure cooker. In the reality, what happened is, it turns out like the police brutality, that was the sort of the straw that broke the camel's back for this time. You know, so, okay, so where we saw this breakout first, I guess, wow, there's another ghost in the video there. We saw, I think it was a much more minor level, but there was some protests to reopen. But now we have like full-on riots across major cities because, okay, that's where this pressure manifested itself first. Wow, it's doing it again. I think it's my USB drive, but I mean the motherboard. But what? Somebody's saying learn a trade. Fine. You guys don't get it. Like the people saying this. Okay, let's say there's 80,000 like plumbing jobs available, right? And fine. And so there's room for, it's like what I mentioned in the robot jobs video. So there's room for lots of people to go learn a trade and become plumbers. Okay, well, let's say there's 500,000 people applying to be plumbers, and then extend that to like woodworkers or like auto mechanics, stuff like that. That's only a solution for the individual. That's not a macro solution for like just to take care of everybody, you know? Yeah. So just magically snap your fingers and make money. Invent a trade. Well, maybe. See, that's the thing. It's, you know, those are solutions for individuals. It's like musical chairs. It's musical chairs. Basically, by saying go learn a trade, get a better education, you're giving tips to people how to run faster to that chair and get that and sit down faster. And you know what? For individuals, that's going to work for a lot of them. Some people, it still doesn't change the fact that some people are going to be left out of it, and these people need a job or some way to survive. And so what we're doing is we're having a lot more people enter the game of musical chairs. So that's what it is. So yeah, it's not that that's bad advice. That's very good advice, you know, to learn a trade that might be valuable, or, you know, make yourself useful to others. Or learn skills to be more self-sufficient. That's all good advice. So yeah, don't get me wrong there. Like, it's just that doesn't solve the core of the problem. That's like it's like whacking off the top of weeds. It doesn't get to the root. Again, it's advice for how to play musical chairs better, to be better at it. But yeah, so what the riots I see as just kind of one manifestation of what's probably going to keep happening until we address our most serious problems. So, like, let's say the riots just simmer down like within a week, or probably not, but let's say it happens. Well, I'm guessing wait a few months, some other crisis or riot or protest, they're going to outbreak too. And I think this cycle is going to keep kind of continuing and continuing until we get to the core of the problem, which is people need ways to a lot of people need more reliable ways to survive. And so, yes, this was a race issue, police brutality issue, because the thing is, a lot of these problems in the system, they're kind of faceless. You know, you can't, it's hard to point to any like one person. Whereas let's say you're in a community where you do really feel like an oppressive police presence. Well, that gives you sort of a target to just exert all your energy towards. So all your all like pent up frustration towards it. So yeah, for sure the police brutality is an issue also, but then now you have a target. Oh, it's the police. And they just get all of that energy kind of coming towards them that's kind of built up from a whole ton of different areas. So it's, yeah, like in my opinion, I feel like I've thought about this before. Yeah, I was thinking, I had this thought after the last video chat, how some of my answers may not seem to make sense compared to other things I say. That's because I'm sometimes thinking in different time scales. And I feel like, in my opinion, we kind of have 4 broad crises that we're facing. And some of them kick in, and if you solve one, that may not do anything for the next one coming down later. And so even something that absolutely makes sense for the like one crisis or a later one may not make sense for even farther down the line. So I guess what I was thinking is, so the 4 general crises I'm seeing that it's just gonna create more and more problems until we address it head on. The first, most immediate one is the unemployment and the pandemic. Like, I mean, this is what that camera twitched again. Because that's just gonna for the pandemic, we need to have a way to contain it. We may need to do more quarantining, which is going to make people kind of stir crazy. However, that's why the unemployment is so important. People need it'll make people a lot less stir crazy if they know, okay, I have to stay at home most of the time, but you know, I'm going to be able to pay rent. I'm going to be able to get groceries. Fine, I'll take up a hobby, you know, or I'll learn a new trade for once we have a vaccine or it's safe enough to go back to work. And so that's like the most immediate thing. I mean, I guess now you can add, calming the riots is another way to do that. But I don't know the best way to do that. Probably, since this one is clearly about police brutality, probably passing new laws that at least appear to quell police brutality method, more kind of policing of the police, that sort of thing. I don't know what the best answer is for that. I'm sure plenty of people online have suggestions for that, and they're experts in that sort of thing. That's the most immediate one, because within like the next year or two, like that one should just be solved as soon as possible. Stop spreading of the disease or containing it, and make sure people are going to be okay throughout however long this unemployment spell lasts. And even beyond, I'd argue, but that's the first layer of crises I'm seeing. The second layer, I think even without the pandemic or the riots and everything, I think what we were seeing now economically was going to happen anyway. I mean, my understanding is much more limited here, but I think we're kind of running the economy really recklessly. Like, since the 2008 crisis, my understanding is we didn't solve the core problems that led to that. We just sort of tweaked the exact methods that led to that, but allowing lots of other avenues for abuse to continue. I actually read an article not long ago that apparently we're actually seeing another real estate subprime mortgage crisis, except this time it's occurring in the commercial sector, where there was rampant amounts of, I think, basically fraud, of where they'd change how much money that these companies would retroactively change how much money they were bringing in, in past years, so they could get higher loans, which they weren't going to, which it was looking really dubious they were going to be able to pay off anyway. But now with the economic crunch, it's even more exacerbated. Plus, going back to the relief that we did do. Okay, we get $1,200 for everybody. Look, in fact, you can email me on this, because I don't even know what's happening now. I just hear various claims that sound legitimate enough. I think even before we passed the stimulus bill, I think I read that the Federal Reserve just dumped $500 billion into the stock market in a day, and then it had plans. I think we were already putting trillions into the stock market to prop it up, and then the Stimulus Act passed, and then there was some system set up where we were either dumping money directly into the stock market, I think to the tune of trillions, or setting up basically interest-free loans without many strings attached to the tune of more trillions. So it's this does not strike me as stable. That's another thing, is that makes me think, even a person like me who does not have a firm grasp of what's happening, that makes me think this doesn't sound stable. Okay, so we have some of the biggest unemployment levels since the Great Depression, maybe even higher than the Great Depression. Guess what? The stock market goes up. We have some of the worst riots we've seen in a generation, or maybe longer. Hey, the stock market goes up. It's one of these does not fit here. It's so we're basically spending, and I think I heard the Treasury saying that we're going to, they've approved unlimited buyouts, I think, or something like that, of junk bonds for the stock markets. Yeah, this is stuff. It's funny. I mean, we're sort of straying into politics territory, but this is something where no matter where you are on the political spectrum, you should probably think this isn't a great idea, because okay, let's say you're real far on the left and you see these companies that were behaving recklessly, hundreds of billions of dollars companies. Okay, well, they're failing now. They couldn't get their act. Well, okay, let's say they're so essential, we need to keep them propped up. Okay, well then, if you're really far on the left, you might say, okay, well maybe we should nationalize them if they're that important, and have government ownership of the stock or a stake in the company, that sort of thing, or have way more regulations to make sure this never happens again. If it's that essential, okay, we should, we need to step in. Well, it's the same thing as the 2008 crisis with the banking industry. Maybe we shouldn't just bail it out, almost no strings attached, since you almost wrecked the economy. You've kind of demonstrated that you can't handle this, and that you need the government to bail you out. So that should come with a price tag. But let's say you want to go on the other end of the spectrum, right? You want full free market capitalism. Okay, well, guess what? They made bad decisions. They should fail. That's how capitalism works. Then like they shouldn't be getting bailed out to the tune of trillions by the government, by your tax money. That's the right wing perspective. Like, okay, you screwed up, you failed. Maybe another business will rise from your ashes. Why should you get like all these bailouts? I mean, so it's like, I'm not sure who's advocating that like we should spend trillions on the stock market in a time of crisis. So like, I think like no matter which kind of ideological slant you're taking, we're not handling this well. So I think like in 2008, I kind of compared it to like a heroin addict. Like, let's say somebody's starting to crash off of heroin, and there's you have three basic options. Like, one is to like, okay, they're going to put them on methadone and check them into a clinic. That would be sort of like the regulation option. So they're not going to crash as hard. They're still going to get their methadone to kind of ease them off it, but we want to intervene. The free market method would just be like, too big to fail. Nope, no such thing. You can fail. that would be that would be the cold turkey method, and that would cause its own kind of hell. But the point is, we might emerge a little wiser from that. Instead, what we did is we kind of handed them a bag full of heroin and just kind of set them on their way and just hope for the best, So yeah, that fired up the chat there. Maybe I'll look at that later. I don't always catch everything that goes in the chat. But, so that's a crisis that I think was emerging anyway. That even without the virus, we would probably still be hitting some trigger would have caused the stock market to just implode. And actually, I think considering how many problems we have right now and how the stock market just keeps staying up and we're spending trillions on that, that makes me think we're going to have another really big crash, like really big. So I've heard one person who, there's one YouTuber, the Gregory Mannarino guy, he said something funny. It was like, he thinks, like if we discovered an asteroid was coming to hit the Earth, like it was going to slam into the Earth, he thinks the stock market would go up, like, based on that news. Yeah, he's predicting like the Dow Jones should be around like 6,000. I think we're like in the 20,000s. So that's another crisis that's emerging. So, okay, so the third layer of crises would be, I think, is just going back to what I said earlier, how our system we're not set up to handle a situation where we have a permanent situation where there's more people that need a way to support themselves than there are profitable jobs available. So that could be, guaranteed jobs by the government for all sorts of work that needs to be done that isn't profitable, or the universal basic income. I mean, if we're talking sci-fi right now, I admit, I like the idea that you don't have to work yourself to the bone to survive, and that if you want to work harder, that's so you can get ahead and maybe have some nicer things or more status, or because you have like a certain calling through a certain occupation, that sort of thing. Like I like the idea where just anybody who, like just even somebody taking a janitor's job or working at McDonald's or something is going to be like better off than somebody who doesn't, but at the same time, or who doesn't work at all, but at the same time, everybody's still okay. That person who's like working at McDonald's or a janitor, maybe they're like saving up for something, or they're like want to go on a career path that'll like, so they can have their own house down the line or something like that, have more prosperity rather than just like, I want to be able to eat this month, that sort of thing. But we're drifting more into utopia thinking with that. I'm aware of that. And the final crisis that I think it's going to take even longer to hit is just general sort of environmental collapse and resource scarcity. Because if you look at how, well, I don't want to go on too long, but I think we're seeing the environment slowly collapse. I think actually if you ask biologists, we might be in the 6th great extinction event. That doesn't mean everything goes extinct. That means there's extinctions occurring on such a massive scale that it's only happened a few times in observable history, basically. And that means a reduction of resources. There'll be less, food production can get more difficult or be more vulnerable. Because if you have like a monoculture farming, that means if there's a plague that spreads through it, that can, well, I think that's sort of what the Great Potato Famine was. But, or medicines. A lot of medicines come from really biodiverse areas, like in the Amazon, that sort of thing. Actually, I learned recently apparently there's a much bigger connection to pandemics breaking out to collapse of the ecosystem than I realized. Because there's all sorts of exotic viruses out there, but the thing is, they only sort of hook in with certain species. Yeah, somebody's talking about the barrier reef going, yeah, oh man, like the oceans. That's bad news, the more we collapse the ecosystem on that. But so say there's, I think the current pandemic is comes from a bat. Well, okay, say this bat was deep in the jungle and everything, and maybe there's a few mammals that can spread it to, but then there's some mammal with the genes are too different, or it's not going to spread to a lizard. So it's it's contained. These viruses just don't spread so far when you have a lot of biodiversity, because it's like, okay, I'm stealing from the movie Contagion here. It's like you have a key, like this virus. For humans, this one happens to fit our lock with our genes so that it affects us. But there's all sorts of animals and species with different genes that are a lot different, that the virus it doesn't go anywhere. So it kind of stays contained because it can only spread so far. However, the more that environment collapses, or the more we have just kind of monoculture stuff, that means when one does get through, it can be how it is right now. There's a chance that, again, more speculating on this part, that let's say, we didn't have even half the deforestation we've had or collapse of wildlife that we've seen in the past, half a century. There's a chance we might not even have had this pandemic, because, yeah, it might have still occurred in that bat, but then that bat would still be in the jungle and it just wouldn't have spread to where humans are even at. So, and then it just kind of fizzles out. So it's, yeah, well, someone's saying a bat in a research lab. I mean, it could be we didn't send expeditions that deep that we found that virus in the first place. So it's, I mean, it's speculating. So I think that's that one's going to take the longest to hit, I think. But so that's why even if you solve one crisis, that may not solve the others. So, okay, that was my long rant there for the question. But right now, I think we're addressing none of them, and so we're just going to be in a pressure cooker. So right now we have the police brutality riots, but could be something else in a few months. Actually, I've heard the next possible trigger event could be once things have opened enough so that we start having massive evictions for everybody who couldn't afford to pay their rent, but there might have been local, state provisions in place so that you can't evict people during that time. If we have a wave of evictions to the tunes of millions across the country, yeah, that's not going to make things more stable. So it's, I kind of look at riots they don't usually come out of nowhere. So it's kind of you kind of want to look at, I'm all about solving the core problem, or better yet, solving the problem before it even starts. But that's not really the reality we're in. So we're in for interesting times. But, okay, good. We have a lighter question now. A fan offered to print out the entire map of Revenant provided you could complete it. Did you ever finish it? No, not yet. I started doing it, and I was actually getting somebody helping me. And then I noticed the color was off between my new recordings versus what I recorded previously, and I couldn't figure out why. So that sort of halted it. I'm gonna go back and figure that out. I'll eventually get it printed out. Don't worry. I'll mention that in a follow-up when I do. Well, assuming the guy will still print it out for me. So, but I'll release the map for sure. I was wondering what your thoughts on the Silent Hill series are. Yeah. If you've played the rest of them, which one was your favorite? Do they fall in line with your horror preferences? Do they handle drama in a way that's to your liking? I've played the first 3, and I've started playing some of 4, but I sort of gave up on it. Although I was thinking a month or 2 ago, that's actually a perfect game to be playing right now, Silent Hill 4, because the plot of Silent Hill 4 is you are locked in your room. Like, you cannot escape your room in your apartment, but you find this hole that leads to weird and crazy places, like in your bathroom or something like that. So yeah, I was like, yeah, that's a great game to be playing during a quarantine. I think what threw me, I think where I really started disliking it was I was going through these subway cars and there were these ghosts coming after me where I couldn't hurt them, I couldn't shove them, and they could fly through walls. I'm thinking, yeah, this isn't fun, going through a maze while ghosts come after me and can kill me and I can't defend myself and they can just fly through walls. So that part was sort of turning me off from it. Yeah, I think 2 would probably be my favorite. Then 1, I think then 3. It's a game that has like really fantastic atmosphere. Yes, they absolutely handle drama in a way that I like because, see, I'm not big on like depressing games, but like 2's a perfect example of that. There's a lot, like the character seems to be quite obviously in a form of depression in the game. But the thing is, he doesn't just wallow in it the whole time. It's like, well, he's kind of getting to the root of this mystery that's connected to his depression. So he's sort of having that kind of down the rabbit hole experience. And I really appreciate that because if you're using your depression to kind of take you to places you might not normally go, and then to combine that with this kind of otherworldly experience, I think that's really cool. And of course, all the Silent Hill games that I've played have like great atmosphere to them. So, as for horror, I don't know if it's. I mean, there are definitely scary parts. I don't know if it's my favorite, but I don't know. I'm still a fan of the kind of like the monsters coming after you kind of horror. But I mean, there are parts I definitely like of it. But yeah, no, it's a really solid series. I've heard the later ones aren't as good. Like I think there was Homecoming. I want to say there was another one, but I forgot the name of it. So, and then there was drama at Konami is what I remember after that. So yeah, like PT was going to be a son. Yeah, that's right. There was like a canceled one with Norman Reedus, and PT was like sort of going to be that, but okay, Downpour. Okay, so yeah, I haven't played Down. So I still need I might look into the others, but from what I've heard, they're not as good as like the earlier ones. So, but yeah, it's a solid series from what I remember. Yeah, actually, in the first one, well, I played it on an emulator because the first one was only on PlayStation, but that actually kind of added to the horror vibe, having the really low fidelity graphics, because it's like everything's more abstract, which kind of worked perfectly to the game. So, oh yeah, this was a tricky one. If you died and had to pick one game universe that would become your reality for the rest of eternity, which game would you pick? And they're saying that if you die or win in the game, it just restarts things. Well, at first I was thinking kind of similar to to the question in a previous chat, where if I could spend a year in a game, like which one would I visit? I was thinking Sonic the Hedgehog was not a bad choice because there's just so many wild and wondrous environments. However, if we're talking eternity, it may not be good enough. I'm thinking you're kind of gonna want some real kind of near infinite kind of experience there. So I would okay. So I'm gonna ask the audience. I'm a little bit at a disadvantage here because there's a lot of 4X games I haven't played. So let me ask fans who have played a lot of 4X games, which sort of space universe with aliens and anomalies do you think is the best out of like the 4X games? Because I don't know. But you know, while you're dwelling on that, I was thinking. Then I got to thinking, okay, well, I know Star Trek. Star Trek wouldn't be a bad choice. There's a lot of neat stuff. I think we could get even cooler than Star Trek, though. But then it hit me. Wait a minute. Star Trek has holodecks. So yeah, Star Trek. However, that's sort of cheating, though, because we're drawing on like there's plenty of Star Trek games, but we're sort of drawing on sort of all the shows and the movies and everything. But if there's a holodeck within the game universe, then I'm set. That's all I need. But okay, somebody's saying like the Endless Space series. We have another one for Stellaris. We have Alpha Centauri. But yeah, I think there was like Galactic Civilizations was another one too. I have played the Space Rangers games. Those are okay. But yeah, I would want something with all sorts of like aliens and anomalies. Tyrion wouldn't be a bad choice. I feel like Tyrion might be a little derivative of like man, that video just keeps flipping out. Because I love that tour guide to the universe stuff in Tyrion. So you'd want some like near infinite universe if you have to spend there in eternity. Yeah, somebody's saying you have like maybe these threats and stuff. Well, it doesn't matter if you get to restart, so you don't really have to worry about the dangers. I mean, Warhammer does have lots of amazing things. However, that one's so brutal, you might be restarting an awful lot before. So and plus a lot of the neat stuff is also spectacularly horrible too. So I don't know. You may not really want to walk the walk so much on Warhammer 40K. Okay, somebody's suggesting. I'm seeing like no consensus at all for the 4X games because we have a Masters of Orion one. No Man's Sky, no. From what I've seen of it, that universe isn't deep enough. I want a universe that has entire cultures and like every planet's just like a different wonder, that sort of thing. You know, No Man's Sky doesn't seem to have that. You know. I mean, it's different, but it's not like radically different and all these different civilizations. Now, actually, I'm curious what fantasy setting might be good too, because I've read a little bit of like I guess like the little manual books that go with them that a friend of mine loaned me. Dungeons and Dragons, they've actually expanded the universe quite a bit to the point where it could be quite interesting, because there's not just like the general fantasy stuff. There's also these different planes of existence, like what was it, like the Feywild and was it under? Geez, I forgot the name of it. It's like the dark universe thing. It's like, well, whatever. I'm sure the Underdark or Shadowfell. Yes, thank you for the chat. Shadowfell. But then there's all these other stuffs, like there's all these other weirder planes, and I think actually more recently in Dungeons and Dragons, at the very far recesses of the known universe, they've added like this kind of Lovecraftian type stuff coming out of there. So that could be pretty endless as far as like how much variety and interesting things you would have. But yeah, no, if I had to make a snap decision, I'd say Star Trek's with holodecks, and I'm good, because you know then I can have it all. So, but yeah, that's where my mind's drifting with that. Yeah, but although it is sort of cheating, because with Dungeons and Dragons and Star Trek, you're tapping into a much larger sort of lore base that you're taking advantage of, whereas all that stuff probably isn't in all the games, you know. Somebody's saying, but the Borg, Ross. Well, yeah, actually, that could be that could be pretty bad with the Borg, because if you're assimilated, then you're still not out of the game. So you're right. The Borg would be a really bad threat for the Star Trek world. So I might have to stay on the more civilized planets. Okay. How far behind are you on answering emails? Very badly. I'm sorry. That's another one of those things I'm really trying to get back on top of, but I actually have ideas on that. So I actually don't want to reveal everything I'm planning for that in case it backfires or doesn't get off the ground. So, and yeah, but however, it's on answering emails. I'm pretty decent on reading all the emails, except the stuff that was sent during, there's 2 times I'm still way behind even on reading, and that's the flood of emails that was sent during the birthday video and when people submitted their picks for the Life is Strange, like music quiz. And I hate to say this, but this next video is probably gonna spur a lot more emails too. However, it's also something I want made public. So I'll probably get a lot of emails, but it's probably gonna lead to a lot more public discussion. So, because I feel like this is stuff where I'm not the only person who's gonna wanna know this, you know? So I'm gonna try and steer things towards like more like forum chat discussion, that sort of thing. So I'm kind of making my problem worse, but I have a lot of drive on this. I feel like I have to, and I still feel like it's possible for me to catch up within a sane degree, you know? It's just like I've got to buckle down at some point and just put other stuff on hold and get to it. Let's see. What are some game dungeons that you always seem to replay a lot, have played lots of playthroughs in the past? Basically, which games do you think have the best replayability? Well, actually, you know what? Believe it or not, I feel like I'm replaying games less than ever now just because I'm so spoiled for choice. However, it'll come out in a future video. There's one thing that's gonna bring me back replaying an awful lot of games. However, that said, when I did the game dungeon, it's hard to say which one has the best replayability. You know, somebody's mentioning the crew. Well, yes and no. I'll talk more about the crew in the follow-up. But when I played them, you know, when I make the video episodes, I go through and play them. Sometimes play through the entire games, or sometimes I just load my saves and get the footage I need, that sort of thing. There were a few games that once the episode was done, I kind of wanted to keep playing, or I was kind of wishing, man, I almost wish I wasn't making a video on this. I could just kind of play the game and not worry about it. And the ones that were like that were Strife, Tyrion actually, Dungeon Siege, for sure. Let's see, I'm trying to think. Deus Ex a little bit. Deus Ex, it's like I already knew the plot again, but I kind of wanted, Deus Ex kind of made me want to play the mods more, like have a different storyline for it. So, yeah, which I haven't got around to, but I plan to try out a couple of the mods for Deus Ex. But yeah, the others I kind of knew them pretty well. I actually had replayed Phantasmagoria 2 once or twice. But before that, but I wouldn't call that a game with like the best replayability. It's just, some games, it's a lot better if you've let it fade in your memory a long time, so more of it's fresh for you. But yeah, those are the ones that come to mind off the top of my head. Although other games, I was happy to kind of be replaying them again as an excuse to do Game Dungeon. Like Quarantine was like that. It had been a long time since I played Quarantine. I was thinking, yeah, wasn't there stuff in there that was like really cool? And then as I'm playing it, oh yeah, there is, but there's also really bad stuff too, I see. So. Yeah, okay. Have there ever been a time in your life when you really needed a shotgun? No, but you know, I'm not missing an arm, or I'm still here, so I've fortunately been in situations where I'd say all the most dangerous situations I've been in, a shotgun probably would have made it a lot worse for me in the long term. So, like, I remember as a kid, I was like cutting through this sort of person in the neighborhood's yard and didn't see a dog coming. Dog came right after me. It took a big chunk out of my leg. And shotgun, yeah, might have saved my leg, but that would have led to things getting worse for me. You know? So, yeah, I was thinking, you have to, with guns, you really have to. I mean, if you need a shotgun, this situation is going to be pretty rare unless you're like in a really unstable part of the world. Because I was thinking, like, even if somebody's like breaking into your house, it's like, well, I mean, I guess it depends on the law, but I don't know. For me, I would want what's called less lethal way of taking the person down. Well, I guess you could fill the shotgun with like those beanbag rounds. That might. So yeah, you could still have a shotgun for that. I keep thinking that like this Penny Arcade comic, where it's around Christmas time and they have these decorations out, and they think someone's been like, they think teenagers have been trashing their reindeer and their Santa displays. So as a joke, he goes and, well, not a joke, as sort of a way to get back, he goes and hooks up the displays to live current, and then and then in the morning they see like these skeletons, like these charred skeletons of the teenagers, and they're like, uh-oh. So yeah, it's like, even if somebody's kind of breaking in, you kind of don't want to, I mean, it's good to avoid killing people, even if you're totally within your rights and they're bastards coming for you. It's not that I speak from experience, but again, I can envision so many more problems that's just gonna stay with you for a long time, So, whereas if you're doing something that does it pass the Johnny Knoxville test? Like, is this something where would Johnny Knoxville consider doing this to himself? That if that's yes, then that's probably pretty sound as far as like self-defense, I think that's a good metric there. Let's see. What's one thing you always find yourself doing in video games that can become a bit of a nervous habit, such as reloading a gun after firing a couple bullets? Geez, I thought of some earlier. I mean, it depends on the game. Well, I mean, if the game allows me, I know in first-person shooters, I can jump a lot. Like, I can be kind of a frog. Well, if you watch when I did that, I think it's on the Curse Farms Junk channel. When I did that GOG contest of Unreal Tournament, like towards the end match, I was just jumping all over the place I was trying to cover as much ground as possible to find the opponent. And I was just, yeah, I heard later from the commentators that they were saying that, well, she's just kind of standing still looking around for people. Ross is flying all over the place like this is a parkour game, one thing I may not even be aware of. When I played the game Fear, that game will sometimes react depending on on your play style. And what I remember hearing over and over in that game is, he's trying to flank. He's trying to flank. So I guess that was sort of a subconscious habit I had where I might, like if I see the soldiers coming around, I might make like a big splashy entrance, like fire some rounds or throw a grenade, and then I immediately would like run around to the side to try to like to try to get the AI going that way so I could get like a better positioning for it. So I just remember hearing that over and over. He's trying to flank, so I guess I flank a lot. What are some other, I don't know if I have like nervous habits. I think when I was a lot younger, I used to hit autosave a lot, but then I found that was annoying and I didn't like doing that. So now I've kind of overcorrected. Sometimes I don't save enough now. Let's see. I'm trying to think like just sort of habits or tics I have. Well, I mean, you guys have seen me play some of the chat have seen me play games. Well, I remember in first-person shooters, this is something I think I've gotten better at. In the past, I can kind of play too aggressively, where I go in And you could probably blame some of Team Fortress Classic on that for stuff like Dust Bowl, where aggressive's the only answer for if you're on offense, you know. Where I'll just kind of run in and just kind of would attempt to overwhelm the enemy, which sometimes often, well, maybe not often, but a significant number of times that's not always a wise idea. I think I'm better at that well, I think that's why I did so well in that GOG tournament, is I remember seeing one of the opponents, they were kind of off in the distance on this deathmatch level, and I see they have shields and they have double damage, and they're sort of running towards me, and I'm like at 15 health or something. I'm thinking, hey, you know what? Maybe I should just not engage on this one, because maybe I can outmaneuver them and whittle them down, but they just have a straight up advantage. And yeah, I did better because of that. I think I won that round because, and the commentators were noticing that too. Like, oh, Russ seems to be picking his fights. Like, so that's a more learned approach now. So, but yeah, in the past, I'll definitely have like maybe a too aggressive style for first person shooters, but okay. And I think this is a question that signals I can start picking and choosing. Do you eat tuna? Yeah, although, I mean, it's all right, but however, I've tried, it's not my favorite. Plus, I actually eat less. I definitely like some seafood, but I kind of eat less now that I've learned more that there's like a higher chance of heavy metals being in some of them. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know, but heavy metals, I only want heavy metal in my music, you know, or my games, or my movies. You don't actually want it in your bloodstream. Not more than symbolically. You don't actually want the real deal. So, but it could be, the risk is probably like 0.001% or something, but I don't know. Heavy metals are one of those where they check in, they don't check out, you know, with, let's see. What's your opinion on System Shock 2? Will you ever make a video about it? I don't have plans for video, although I'll say System Shock 2 as a bit of a cameo in the next video. So wait 2 days. It's not a review of it or anything, but yeah, it's one of my favorite games. System Shock 2 is actually one I played a little bit of, and I was liking it, but then I got busy, and then I didn't play it for years, and then I went back and played it. I was like, yeah, this game's great. I mean, it has great atmosphere. And look, to be honest, System Shock 2 kind of ruined BioShock for me. Because, I mean, in my opinion, System Shock 2 is the superior game in every single way except graphics. I mean, maybe yeah, okay, like the grading weapons was a problem, but when I played it, I actually edited I just decided that was ridiculous anyway. So I edited the config file so that my weapons didn't degrade. So I had a better time with that anyway. So it's really just like one setting in a config file you can change for that. Because I feel like the plot's more developed, the characters are more thought out, like the whole world's more thought out. I think it's scarier. Like I like the music better. I mean, the concept of an underwater city is awesome. I like that. However, BioShock copied System Shock 2 so much that it's just, you know, I'm not against a game copying another one, even to a high degree. However, if you're doing that, the story probably shouldn't be your strength. Or, you know, like for example, like I play lots of like Metroid, or it's like Super Metroid clones or Castlevania clones. Great, it might be like a different setting, different story. So it's like the gameplay that's being copied. So it's like, okay, sure. But if it's like the story, I kind of know what's coming. And then if it's so similar, I'm going to be comparing it to the original. So yeah, let's see. What do you think of, I just noticed the chat. What do you think of degrading weapons that don't make sense? Okay, here's a question for the audience. What game has degrading weapons ever been fun? Because maybe I'm just, whether it makes sense or not. Like I'm hard pressed to think of one. Maybe there's one. Yeah, we have like one. We have one thing. None. We have another none. Yeah, yeah. So okay, so everybody seems to be on the same page here. I don't know the acronym. What's BOTW? I would say blah of the world. Oh, Breath of the Wild. Okay. Somebody's saying Fallout 1. No, I don't think that made it more fun. I mean, like if you want to limit like how much people, especially for like a survival game like Fallout, what you do is like I'm cool with guns having or like weapons having you find them kind of like half broken or like maybe they're a little less reliable. So like later you can find a better one. Yeah, that's cool. But I mean, like no, I'm talking about like you start off with it good and then it gets worse. You know, I I don't know. I can't think of a single instance that's ever been fun. So okay, so I should get back to this pre-submitted questions here. Okay. Oh yeah, there's a longer one. Okay, Ross, it's hard to see the world as anything other than dystopic to the point of nihilism with so much crazy information warfare happening right in front of us online and social media. It feels now like every single device is collecting our data, create metrics on our behaviors without our consent. Okay. And then talking about increasing the impact of propaganda. We're targeting people based on that data. Is okay, this is the longer one, so I'm sort of skimming. I guess my question is, how can society fight back against this stuff? And they're saying live without any form of social media, mobile phone, etc. They're saying you self-employed, so it's pretty much impossible. Okay, well, one, I'm not, in case you're wondering, I'm actually not a nihilist. I'm much more existentialist. So you got to create your own meaning. That doesn't mean you can't be cynical and think things are still heading towards dystopia, though. But you know, you're not. I mean, nihilist. I keep thinking of The Big Lebowski when I think of nihilist. We are nihilists. We believe in nothing. No, I guess. Well, yeah, no. The best thing you can do, I think, is actually just approach this on like a smaller kind of micro level. Like you're not. It's true. A lot of these problems can be so big they don't get fixed, and we head into really bad territory. But the thing is, you can form communities of people who all kind of have good values and or just on the same page with realizing we have serious problems that we should address. So you can kind of figure out maybe how to connect to people like that and not, look, you're not going to fix the world, you know? I mean, it's, yeah, like in the New Beginning game, yeah, that was like his mantra from his psychologist before the time traveler came back to tell him he needs to save the world. But you can, yeah, you're not going to fix the world, but you might be able to fix like a whole lot of problems for a community of people who have similar views as you do. And so, like, yeah, I mean, I was kind of only half joking on the Cult Tycoon episode where I'm talking about the Fellowship for Intentional Community, yeah, the Intentional Communities website, you know, because look, if things get more crazy, you know, it might actually make sense to try to intentionally form a community of people who are not crazy or don't believe insane things or just, you know, do wish to kind of make the future better, that sort of thing. Yeah, well, I don't know if I agree with that, but somebody's saying like George Carlin, if you're trying to make the world a better place, you're part of the problem. I don't know if I agree with that, but it probably depends on the context because, like, look, I bet people trying to clean up like nuclear disaster sites, they were trying to make the world a better place. Or what? There's some pretty objective stuff that, like, if you're a firefighter, no, you're probably making the world a better place. You know, I mean, it's yeah. Or again, working at a soup kitchen, or you know, stuff like that. So I think it depends, you know. Well, somebody's saying the key is in the make. Well, no, you're making it. I mean, that you're actively trying to mold the world to the way you can, you know. But again, I don't know the full context of that rant, so I haven't seen all of Carlin's skits. Well, somebody's saying maybe Carlin was joking since he's a comedian. Well, yes and no. Comedians can also be big truth tellers too, but package it in a funny way. But yeah, I'd say like if you're getting overwhelmed, but I'm actually going to talk about this a little bit in the follow-up episode. But I'd say think smaller is if you're just feeling like everything's hopeless, because it's not hopeless on the smaller you get. Because, you know, maybe in touch with their neighbors, or hey, maybe you want to make new neighbors. Maybe you want to move to a place where, you know, that's kind of more forward thinking and just connect with other people. I've had that. I've had that same thought myself, you know. So, yeah, just try to connect with other people who do seem sane, and just maybe that can kind of lead to like, again, a kind of intentional communities, in which case, you know your neighbors, and like you guys are planning like 10 years ahead or something like that. Or so it's like, you know, you can't stop all the bad stuff going on in the world, but you do have a lot of control, usually over your own over your own life, up to a point. The more, again, I'm all about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The more your immediate needs are threatened, the less control you do have over your life. That's why it's real important to try to solve that, not just for you, but as many people as possible, but like on a larger level. But yeah, so just think smaller, I guess, is the way to go with it. And then, hey, that was the other thought I had. If you're worried about everything turning into a dystopia, look, we are not handling things very competently, I think, like as a society. Because, you know, the worst sounding dystopias are the ones where, like out of 1984, where it is this system that keep people oppressed, and they're prepared for just any sort of contingency or revolt or reform or anything. Like they're ready for it. It's a well-oiled machine. It's a well-oiled dystopic machine. That is not what we have now. If you really wanted to suppress, we wouldn't be having riots if we were effective at suppressing the masses. So, yeah, if you want more hope, on a larger level, what you should be focusing on, in my opinion, I'm speaking really broadly here. Of course, there can be scenarios where you kind of do have to get more involved directly, but focus not so much on combating the existing system, because I feel like the existing system, it's failing, because, you know, these problems are going to keep continuing as long as a significant portion of people can't meet their basic needs. Then it's just going to, again, like a pressure cooker, it's just going to spill out. You don't know what direction exactly it's going to go, but it's going to happen. So while the system is collapsing and kind of devouring itself, if you can be building a better system, even if it's on a smaller scale, if that's what's left standing as things get worse and worse, well, then that's what might get more growth and acceptance in the future. So, hey, if you're actually proving that like a better system exists, even if it's on a smaller scale, well, then hey, that might be the best game in town as time goes on. But thinking like, oh yeah, we should be doing what those people are doing. You know, how they're organizing like their neighborhood and their village or town, that sort of thing. So, like it's almost like you can win by, you can win by just being the people standing, you know? Even if it's on a much smaller scale. Or be ready to move in to create a better system once there is an opening, you know, that sort of thing. Like plans, you know, again, I'm speaking really broadly, but hopefully I'm not an expert at this either. Okay. You labeled Go to Hell as a break game. Go for 10 to 20 minutes at a time. What other games would you recommend for breaks? This is one where the audience might have better answer than I do. I tend to drift towards. I've actually been wondering this myself when I'm working on like these like really time encompassing videos where I don't have a lot of free time and maybe I just want to play something for 10 minutes. I'm not, somebody's saying Slay the Spire. Okay, another one saying NetHack. I'm actually don't know. I find myself kind of drifting more towards like the long, kind of full game experiences that kind of wow me, or at least I hope we'll have a chance to, kind of get wrapped up in it, that sort of thing. Okay, somebody's saying Bot Arena. People are talking about like population increase. Oh yeah, something to keep in mind with population increase is it's not all equal. Like they're talking about like Nigeria. Actually, the place that has the most impact on things resource-wise is in the developed world. So and even then it raises depending on like your socioeconomic class. So like the son, so like the baby of a millionaire or something like that from a typical lifestyle could be the equivalent resource usage of, okay, I don't want to, I'll say it could maybe like a dozen of people like in developing nations where it's like very meager lifestyle. So it's not all equal with population. So I just wanted to throw that in there, just food for thought. And I always like to emphasize this. Yes, I do believe we really do need to reduce population growth in the long term. Well, no, I really think we need a contraction, to be honest. However, I am in no way advocating lethal means. So that means don't kill anybody. You do that by trying to reduce the number of births and letting people live out their natural lives. That's like the humane way. I'm in no way an advocate of that, of like, oh yeah, there's too many people, let's go kill some. Yeah, I'm not a maniac, all right? At least not like that. You have to get deep into gaming and art stuff before I start becoming a maniac. But yeah, I just always like to emphasize that for the internet because you know how the internet is. They'll hear one thing and just run with it. So I want to make that crystal clear. I'm in no way of, yeah. Well, that's the cynical answer there. You limit population by having them riot in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah, that's what happens when there's just no plan. Oh, yeah. Again, it's like that Robot Jobs video. Yeah, I mean it's a wider lens than what we're seeing now. But so yeah, I'm afraid I don't know many in the way of good break games. Sorry. There's so many games now. I want to go for like the richest experiences usually. However, I wouldn't mind knowing of a few good break games. What are some examples of game developers messing up basic features or mechanics that you've seen? Oh man, I missed that question when I was browsing these earlier. That one's too broad for me. I mean, hell, half the game dungeons show that. I mean, I feel like there was a really egregious example in one of the game dungeons, but I forgot what it was. Maybe the audience remembers. See, I've done too many of these now. They just sort of blur together. So, oh yeah, somebody's asking about the new apartment. Oh yeah, I spoke too soon on the new apartment when I was talking about like a musty smell. Two things. Well, I've gone through like 5 different things. So if you have this problem, maybe one of these will help. First, I ended up buying like these bags of charcoal. Apparently, yeah, actually bamboo charcoal. Apparently it's 10 times more porous than regular charcoal. And that's used to kind of take care of odors in places like basements and they last for like 2 years or something like that because they just absorb a lot of the particles. That did help, but it didn't eliminate it. The musty smell has gone. However, it sort of graduated to what I would call just an old car smell. Like if you've ever been like on a long road trip and then you come back into the car, it's that smell. So it's not, I don't know what was causing that. But I was wrong when I was talking about the humidity. I was just going by the weather humidity outside. In here, it's actually very dry, which is great because that means mold's not going to spread. Like I came and I turned on the dehumidifier. It was raining outside, and then the dehumidifier wouldn't even turn on because it said it was 38 degrees humidity. I was like, 38% humidity. I was like, wow, that's nothing. Like mold's not going to grow at that. So whatever I'm smelling, it was probably inside the walls, which means it's at least not going to spread into here. But two more things that I did with that. I got coffee grounds because to just sort of, I figured, the mold's not like I'm choking on it. So I just wanted to mask the smell. So I put out like coffee. I just poured out coffee because I don't mind the smell of coffee. I like that. And that kind of masked it for a while. However, that even with all that, that wasn't quite enough. And now is where I'm getting really confused. Because in the past apartment, the answer to everything was just as much airflow as possible. Here, I'm noticing it's something weird. Like I have them a little open now, but I'm noticing when I leave the windows more open here, the smell tends to get worse. So maybe like the humidity from the outside is rushing in and that's causing something. I usually leave my door open when I'm not recording. So, I'm getting air in here. It doesn't feel stuffy. So, there are other windows open. So maybe just having it flow through this, coming in through this particular area was doing that. Yeah, like there's more airflow coming from another. So I don't even know what's going on now, but it seems to mostly have been solved. So, even then, at its worst, it wasn't as bad as like the past two apartments. But yeah, they were implying that like, oh, hey, maybe I was just leaving things dark all the time and not getting it ventilated. Well, yeah, for the ventilated, I'm very confused about the ventilation here now. But for the past two apartments, no, that was not the case. Like pretty much any time I'd be out of the room, I would just open up the windows, the blinds, and just let the sun just blast the place. Try to kill everything. Like if I'm out or going somewhere. Now, I would sometimes close it like during the middle of the day when I want to work on the computer. But, if I'm sleeping or something, or, I uncover it, or like if it's in the evening or morning, I might leave it uncovered, that sort of thing. So yeah, I wasn't always getting like full on sunlight all the time, but it was getting hours a day. Like every time I exercised, it was plenty of sun coming in. So, yeah, you can. So yeah, it's mostly solved now. I want to make this place work. I feel so incredibly lucky I found this place. So, and I feel great knowing that there actually are reasons it's not more expensive than it is, and it's all mostly cosmetic stuff. Yeah, I can't remember if last time I remember all the ways it was cheap. I can't remember if I mentioned how. Like there was like this really loud vibrating noise that would occur like from the doorstep unless we put weights. Yeah, I think I did mention that, but yeah, the landlord's still cool. We haven't had any, he referred us to somebody else to get something fixed, but then he ended up being really busy and then nothing's been fixed, but some of the problems went away on their own. So it's working all right. Actually, somebody's mentioning leaky pipes. Yes, but I bought wrenches to fix that. It's not really leaking. It's only the sink was coming loose. So, but that was something I could fix myself. So yeah, no, it's like the perfect combination for me of being affordable and ways that it's obviously kind of cheap versus being the best I could possibly hope for my income level. So. It's cheap in all the best ways, So, yeah, but like here, let's see. Yeah, that wall sounds pretty hollow. Oh yeah, that's what I meant to say last time, or the time before. This apartment would be perfect for like a fight scene in a movie, where like they crash into like they crash into railings and knock them over or break furniture, or put somebody's head into a wall, that sort of thing. Because yeah, you could wreck this place pretty good. Like if you want to have like just an all-out brawl scene, this would be like a great apartment to have it in, because all sorts of stuff. Oh yeah, like I bet. Oh yeah, like I'm pretty sure, like if you secured it right, I could kick down that door, like smash out the door frame. Okay, I might even be able to rip out the door, like the inside doors, not the one to the apartment. I think there's some doors, like if I just went all out, I might actually be able to rip it out from, or at least halfway rip it out from the framework, if I wanted to. Or yeah, it would. Yeah, this would be a good apartment for that. Like you could, because in those fight scenes, that they specifically design them like that. They get furniture that's meant to break, or things that. But yeah, this one, it would kind of work halfway just as it is. I'm pretty sure I could smash like the guardrail. What are some other things I could trash in this place? Oh, the windows. Yeah, I could. I could. I mean, just kind of half rip them off from the frame. I bet, or yeah. There's all kinds of things I could break. Yeah, I could rip out the sink. I bet, if with enough force, or bend it a little bit. Yeah, the shower head could definitely break that. Yeah, I could probably smash out the toilet. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not doing that, but yeah, this would be a. So like I say, if we're not acting like maniacs, it's a pretty great apartment for the money. So. Yeah, so that's yeah. I remember thinking I remember having that thought last time, but I forgot to mention it. Okay, somebody's asking, how do I avoid the intro of Star Trek Enterprise? Look, I'm ruthless, even for good intros. Once I've seen them once or twice, I tend to skip through them. Where I don't think I've seen the Star Trek Enterprise intro once to completion. Like the music just drove me. It just turned me off so rapidly. Yeah, so if you wonder what kind of music does Ross not like, the Star Trek Enterprise theme. Yeah. Everybody's confused. I don't mean like, Star Trek The Next Generation theme or the original theme. No, I mean the show Star Trek Enterprise, That's, yeah, so I just skip ahead. I'm ruthless now in movies and shows. Anytime I come across a scene where, like, all right, you know what? I've seen enough movies. I know exactly how this is gonna go. Or it's just like a couple discussing their problem. Like, this happens a lot of TV shows. A couple discussing. It's like they need filler to like hit their time length. So they just talk about pointless stuff, or just. I call them canned drama moments. So I just skip over that. Like, oh, okay, now something happened. They're running around, like, so I'll just skip, and like I'm probably guess right, 95% or more of the time. But like, yeah, I lost nothing skipping this scene. I want to get to like plot advancement or something funny or some action or something like that. Like, I mean, it's not just slow stuff. Like, that's actually a good measure of like how well the writing can be in a show. Like even really popular shows, I'll skip a lot of. Yeah, like in the comments, somebody putting intro, plot, filler, plot, finale. Yeah, exactly. So it's really great when shows don't do that. Like I actually notice one that really did not do that is The Shield. If you've seen that, boy, every episode there is just something going on, and those, like, they don't beat around the bush in that one. Or 24 would have a lot of that too, where there's just something happening all the time. But yeah, it's not that there has to be like action or anything. I actually thought there was a great scene. I think it was in the first episode of The Walking Dead, where they're just sitting in the car chatting, and he's talking about how, one of the characters is saying like his wife is saying that they maybe need like new bulbs or something or to do something to combat global warming or some money to this movement. I forget what it is. And he's saying it's just like, he doesn't know what it is about her, but she's born without the ability to turn off a light switch. It was only one setting, on. And so he tried to suggest politely, like, hey, maybe, like, dear, maybe if we turned off the lights more, we wouldn't use so much power and we wouldn't have to like take such aggressive measures of global warming. And like that's when she broke out. Like, oh, I hate you. You sound just like my father. Like, see, this is just a real casual conversation. It's slow. It was just funny. It's just two cops sitting in a car talking. It was just funny. It was like well written, and it was. Why can't we have more filler like that? Like where it doesn't have to be somebody. I guess what I call manufactured drama. Like, I feel like if you have drama in your show, you should earn it. Like, let's say, like this character has been you've seen these characters be friends throughout multiple episodes, and then like one of them goes to prison or is killed or something. Okay, well then there's some real drama, or something that's legitimate, not just like, oh, soap opera crap. Like, oh, I'm just gonna get upset for just something stupid, like, just like, oh, I don't know how I feel about him now. I mean, some people like that, but I don't. I guess here's the thing. For sure, some people like their soap operas. I'm the wrong demographic for that. What I don't get is why that stuff appears in stuff like action series or like The Walking Dead, a zombie apocalypse show. I would think the people who like soap operas and the people who like shows about the zombie apocalypse, it's a real small crossover on the Venn diagram, Like, I'd rather see that be devoted towards like, hey, how are we gonna survive the next week? Like, let's hear like the nitty gritty details about like how are they filtering their water, like which regions are safe, like more of that sort of thing. If you need filler to kind of calm things down between the action scenes, it's like so it just because a lot of people like Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad has a lot of great scenes, but then it has a lot of that stuff too, where like almost like every scene involving his wife is just like I don't want to watch any of this, or like his son. Like it's like let's go back to him making drugs and getting in trouble with the cops. That was good. Like, yeah, I like that. So, but. I guess Breaking Bad, they're trying to appeal to a wider demographic, but Walking Dead, I'm thinking the people who really like their soap operas and interpersonal drama, that's not the zombie apocalypse crowd. I don't know, but I don't know. Maybe they've done their market research on that, and I'm wrong on that. So, yeah, somebody's saying Sopranos too. Okay, this might sound like blasphemy. I watched the first episode of Sopranos. It didn't reel me in, so I haven't seen The Sopranos. I just saw the first episode. It didn't seem like it. I don't know. I feel like with a show, a pilot episode, you got to you got to throw a bone, to get people reeled in. So, yeah. So, okay. Yeah, I got off track again. Oh yeah, this is a good question. Ross, what are your thoughts on constant weapon switching in games? Do you enjoy using different weapons for different kinds of foes if the game encourages it? Or do you prefer happening upon an unchanging dominant strategy and coasting through on that? It can be either. I guess I think I like it most when you're kind of given some agency as a player so you can decide for yourself what you want to be doing. Like what kind of ammo you're. Oh, geez, what game was that? I think it was like one of the Mass Effects where like I just dumped everything into like either sniper rifle or just single shot damage. Just like, you know what? I'm sick of shooting them multiple times. Just like just let's do this one shot, one kill stuff just as much as possible. Just so I was just making like crafting like these hand cannons. It might have been Mass Effect. No, I'm fine with either. Like, however, the person gives some examples, and actually that's a go. See, one's talking about range. So yeah, stun guns are just if somebody's shooting at you from the hills, or you want to take people out from a distance because it's just too dangerous to go in guns blazing. Sure, yeah, you want a long range weapon for that, but then that's not as ideal for up close. That's why a single semi-automatic assault rifle kind of is the best of both worlds for that, because yeah, that works at close range. Yeah, it works at fairly long range too. But this is the one I don't like, damage types, and they're talking about how certain weapons only damage certain enemies. I find that annoying a lot of the time. Again, are there? I guess. Okay, I know the game. I haven't played it, but was it Divinity Origins, or I keep wanting to say Divine Divinity. That's the first one. I think it's Divinity Origins or Divinity something with an O. Like you could combine things like water with electricity and do more damage that way, or something. I don't know. I don't really like having to work. Yeah, Divinity Original Sin. That's what I was thinking of. I don't really like having to mess around with that and swapping out one weapon just because this enemy is arbitrarily designated as being more resistance to this kind of damage. I find that stuff annoying. Now that doesn't mean, I'm fine with having a variety of the enemies where, like, okay, like you have your standard weapon that works against most enemies, and then you have like this giant armored Hulk coming in. Well, see, that's when you want to bust out like the big guns, like the explosives or something. It's not that the explosives don't work on the smaller enemies, but it's like, man, you really want it for these big guys or the real armored stuff. So I like that I don't mind that when the enemies encourage you to switch to different things. So I was saying, why is Ross's light off? Well, actually, you wouldn't see me as well if the light was on because it would be from the back, so you would get more of a silhouette effect. But let's see, and they're talking about frequency. Like, yeah, if you have like a bunch of small enemies, well, yeah, Serious Sam's a classic example of that, where you really wanted the flamethrower for those little hoppers that would come at you, as opposed to any other weapon. Although I've only looked at it a little bit. I'm not a fan of like forcing you to switch weapons, which is another reason I may not like Doom Eternal. I heard that they're just miserly on the amount of ammunition you can hold. Whereas I'm thinking, well, why not? Okay, well, people are gonna have their own thoughts on this. See, I feel like, well, why not show how your weapons are good for different situations and let the player figure out what they would rather use. So so they figure out that the really heavily armored enemies, you want to save the big blast stuff for them, or you figure out that big blast stuff isn't good for like these quick twitchy enemies, that sort of thing. Whereas I was hearing that, like, I think they would say like you could hold like 8 or 12 shells or something with a shotgun or something like Doom Eternal. I was like, why? Yeah, and the melee. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I haven't played it, but I've just seen like a couple reports on it. I'll say this. For my taste, that game does not sound as brilliant as everybody's making it out to be. If people love the hell out of it, fine. Then that's us preferring different games. But I like it where you kind of get to choose more. Where you like maybe you can hold a couple weapons and you get to decide whether you just want to be you just want to go through this whole game being a sniper, or you just want to get up in their face, or even if that offers a disadvantage, because sometimes like I'm not like in RPGs, I know for some of them there's this attitude that like you should be able to play the game any way you want to. I'm actually okay with not making it that way, or not making it easy that way. Like, because I was thinking in Fallout, if let's say you want to go all out as a melee guy in Fallout, right? Well, you know what? If there's some sniper, that's going to be a lot harder for you as a melee character. Now, hey, maybe it's worth it and you want to see, well, you know what? You're up to the challenge. You're just going to sneak around and just punch them. Like, you're going to punch that sniper. If that's the last thing you do, well, then great. Whereas the game might be easier if you just want to go for a more ranged character. But see, I like having that flexibility. Although I don't like it if you're completely blindsided. Like, this sounded like a sane decision, and then you discover later, just because of how the game is, oh no, it turns out that like picking fire magic's a terrible idea. You know, as long as you're given some reasonable warning, I'm fine with not everything being equally good. You know, I like the idea of, you know, some styles are a little easier, some are more challenging, but maybe they're more exciting, you know, that sort of thing. Or maybe you can do a melee character, but you're gonna have to think about this way more, like get exactly the right equipment, you know, basically make yourself a walking, slow-moving tank that just kind of walks up slowly to people and punches them or something, if you want to survive the end game, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, so I'm not a fan of the damage type, but yeah, that's fine with switching up weapons, you know. Okay, somebody says, how do you feel about projects like open source ecology and general initiatives about accessible alternatives to widely used items and technologies like cars? I actually wasn't familiar with that. Seems like a good idea. I actually feel like we're kind of seeing more and more the downsides of having copyright law as aggressive as it is. So the more essential or practical something is, the more that should kind of sunset as far as like how much you can claim patents on that sort of thing. I mean, yeah, if it's a new technology, of course you want the opportunity to be all right with it, but I mean to succeed with it. But you know, when it's like, yeah, what's the longest example of copyright law now? It's something like 70 or 90 years after death or so of the creator or something like that. I mean, yeah, that's just cartel stuff at that point, I think. Yeah, when no one involved with the original formation of it is even alive, I think you're kind of past the point. So, what was the first game you ever played? I don't know, but because you know how memories are, that can be really hazy. I remember thinking this wasn't the first game I had played, and I don't remember what the first game I played was. However, one of the first ones I remember, I think, was River Raid for Commodore 64. You know what's funny is I went back like a few years ago, and I was thinking, you know what? Yeah, I remember that game. I'm gonna beat that, and that's when I discovered, oh, that's actually an endless game. You can't beat it. So, let's see. What was the first game you played that really immersed you, made you feel a part of the game world? Well, again, it's kind of a interpretive thing there because look, playing those Commodore 64 games were immersive, but I can't say those were my most positive experiences. I mean, Spider-Bot, I played that when I was young. It certainly left an impression. It was immersive, but it wasn't my favorite experience. I never got as far as I did in the video. So I think, well, one that stands out, I remember just being, plus when you're a kid, it's a little different too, because you're wowed by more things. I remember seeing a commercial for the Super Nintendo, like just showing Mario World. My mind was just blown by seeing that. And then like I got to see Super Metroid in a display store. I think it was like at Brendel's or something. And I was like, oh wow, this is amazing. Like, you know, just being floored by that. I mean, I was pretty interested in Super Mario Brothers 3 though, as a kid, and like I really liked oh yeah, in the arcade. Yeah, I was pretty wowed by the Ninja Turtles arcade game. That had a lot of good music and like an atmosphere to it, and yeah, you know, you can be impressed by simpler stuff as a kid. Well, I probably still like that kind of game now, but it wouldn't blow my mind the way it did then. I was not aware that Ben Cooley, the creator of Revenant, posted a comment on the Revenant video. I guess I should check that out. I don't know what he said, so I did see this comment, but I didn't take the time to go look, to go, you'll have to forgive me, guys. I didn't take the time to go wade through YouTube comments. Although that gives me a thought about something I should I'll maybe add a quick note on the next video. I just realized we could use a better way to organize YouTube comments. Oh yeah, this is a hard question. If you could live for any span of time, but had to irrevocably decide the length of this period now, what would it be? Assume it makes you impervious to any attempt to hasten the process along. So if you say 70 dectillion years, that's definitive. That's so hard because because basically, if you guess wrong, your life ends early, or you're basically condemning yourself to insanity if it's too long. Like, I mean, like if I had to, because I was thinking about it. I'm not sure how much longer I would want to be around, like if humanity was gone, because I could. I mean, actually, I could probably go a fairly long time with just the relics of humanity, like all the entertainment and literature and culture we've left behind, but that would eventually break down or erode, you know, things like game, and then you'd just be just you and nature, and there might not be that much left in nature, and that's when you probably start going crazy slowly. So you basically have to guess like how long humanity's gonna make it. Although I wouldn't limit it to humanity though. If there was another sentient species, that would probably be okay too. You know, so let's say humanity evolved into something unrecognizable, but they can still communicate, then have like, you know, conversations, and that would be all right. Let's see, yeah, so I guess if like, I would have to research this, see, because we're asking, how long is humanity gonna make it? Because I think with global warming, we're gonna have a lot of problems. However, there's a difference between extinction versus the majority of humanity killed off. So, you know, you can still hang out with the people in the bunkers or whatever, and that's still plenty of reason to keep going. But yeah, like how long is humanity gonna make it? I guess if I had to just blind guess, I'd say maybe 10,000 years. Because I want to go on as long as I can, but you know, if humanity and just sentient life is just gone, and it's just you, that'd be rough. But good news is I don't think I'm gonna have to worry about that problem. So, let's see. Okay, is the Dead Game News email address still monitored? Not by me. I handed it off to someone else, but then he ended up getting busy or having some trouble he was dealing with. So it's possible it might not be. But even then, look, okay, I'll say this. I mostly retire Dead Game News unless I really have to come out for some major event. However, I'm gonna kind of continue that fight in, like what I mentioned in the last Dead Game News, that in France. Also, I'm working on trying to develop a secret weapon against this stuff. And really, that's honestly the video I would want to make next. However, I feel like I've neglected Game Dungeon way too long, and people are going to want to lynch me over that. So I better get to Game Dungeon. But I'm going to try to work on that video as soon as I can. So development of the secret weapon against dead games. So I suppose you could recommend some novels. I haven't. Let's see. I haven't caught up too much on, let's see what I read recently. Okay, the last one I read was actually pretty interesting. It's kind of short. It's a science fiction. It's actually written in the late '60s, and I hope I don't. I hope the YouTube doesn't censor me for this, even though it's a legit word. It's Age of the Pussyfoot by Frederick Pohl, and it's about this guy who's basically come out of stasis like 400 or 500 years into the future, and there were a lot of good guesses on it, and yeah, it's pretty solid. And before that, I read, was it Rainbow's End by Werner Vinge? That was another science fiction that got recommended to me. That one, the story, it was okay. The most interesting about that is like, if you wanted a story about maximum augmented reality, then that's a book to read. Like if you're really big into augmented reality, you should definitely check that one out. Yeah, Rainbow's End by Werner Vinge. I need to read some more too. I've been reading news articles lately. I sort of wax on, wax off between like reading some news, because most news, I typically don't read it then and there. I'll just save the article and then just read it later on a tablet, like when I eat. So because that way I don't feel like pressured to just try to skim it as fast as possible. I can just see the headline, maybe a sentence or two, like, oh, I might want to read this, and then just kind of read it and just really absorb it. So that way, so it's a way, and then like say it's a extensive article. There's like a lot of research. Well, that's how I found out about that housing crisis that's emerging in the commercial. Well, not housing, residence, not real estate crisis that's emerging in the commercial market. That's a long article. I mean, it's probably like 10 pages or something. Whereas if I'm busy, I don't have time to necessarily skim that. But if I'm eating, sure, I could read that. So I'll save some of those, queue them up, read those, and then if I run out, then I'll start reading a book. I finish that, then I go, and then some news is stacked up for stuff I'm interested in. So, okay, so I should wrap this up sooner. Let's see. Somebody's asking about nostalgia. Believe it or not, I'm not big into nostalgia. It's kind of a weird feeling. I like cool stuff that can be old though. I like things I like that are new, things that I like that are old. That's my attitude on it. So I don't really like dwindling on past memories that just, it's gone. It's passed on. Whereas if it's an old game or an old movie, well, cool, I can still watch that now. You're gonna play it or read an old book. Yeah, that book, the Frederick Pohl book, it was from like '68. It was, he basically nailed smartphones in that. Except they also have like these constant like drug dispensers, like they have sprays that kind of give people like a buzz to get through their time. Yeah, actually, there was only one part of that book that, well, I mean, you sort of have to. Well, okay, I should keep. Yeah, it's worth reading if you like science fiction. Okay, somebody's asking for movie recommendations off the top of my head. I don't know. I'd have to go by like theme. Like if you ask me like, oh, what's a good movie to watch? Might be drawing a blank or something that like everybody knows of. So the thing about movies is, vast majority of movies I watch are just kind of okay, or they'll also have like great scenes. So even if the movie, okay, I remember one I liked that on my The Death of Stalin. They basically took a pretty historically accurate account of the events surrounding the death of Stalin, and they just turned it into a comedy. like they just changed the tone on like all the historical figures, and they just turned it into a dark comedy. If you like dark comedy, and I do, the gold standard for me is the movie Very Bad Things. I forgot his name. He plays Happy in the Iron Man movies and Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's my favorite performance by Christian Slater. Is that movie in Very Bad Things? But yeah, if you don't like dark comedy, you will not like that movie. It's Daniel Stern, one of the burglars from Home Alone. It's just, it's about a situation just spiraling out of control. Okay, put it like this. This movie, this is sort of like a lot of people have seen The Hangover. Yeah, John Favreau, or however you say his name. Uh, a lot of people have seen, was it The Hangover? The Hangover is like the diet version of this movie, okay? That this is like the uncut. That this is like the hard stuff here. So, what's I'm trying to think of a few others. Yeah, yeah, that's easily my favorite Christian Slater performance. He is in his element for that. Let's say that. Like, yeah, somebody's mentioning Airplane or. Oh, I haven't seen the movie Chef. Although that makes me think. Speaking of dark comedy again, it's been a while since I've seen this one. Was it Scotland, Pennsylvania? It's a modern day reimagining of Macbeth, except it's about a fast food diner instead of a kingdom. Uh, it was all right. I remember didn't blow me. Oh, that's a fun movie. Go. That's from, I think, like early 2000s. That has a cool soundtrack. It's another one of these just kind of lots of different things going on and characters getting into messed up situations. It's a comedy for sure. Let's see, what's another fun movie? I think I mentioned Stark Raving Mad before. For earlier, that's a comedy / crime caper. Although, yeah, I have seen Jojo Rabbit. Yeah, Jojo Rabbit was weird. It was parts of it. That's one where Jojo Rabbit has like fantastic scenes, but it's like we're going back and forth between genuinely funny kind of dark comedy farcical stuff versus more serious drama, and that's never really my favorite style. But no, what was it? Oh yeah, the movie. Okay, movie I should just recommend. Period. I probably mentioned it before. Goon. That's become one of my favorite comedies. It's a movie like loosely inspired on this real hockey player who well, in the movie the character. I mean, it takes a lot of liberties. It's not a biography or anything. Played by Sean William Scott, and in the movie, basically, he's kind of a simpleton, but he is fantastic at fighting. Like he's and he's really good natured, you know, very friendly. He works as a bouncer, but so he ends up like working his way up into like the professional leagues, like starting off like smaller level, but professional leagues, not because he's great at hockey, but because he's used as an enforcer to just beat down people. Like the coach is using him strategically. Like when he sees that the opposing team is like trying to beat up like the guy, like the really good players who are gonna score the goals. Like he sends him out there to run interference or just like send them to the penalty box. The movie's hilarious. Oh yeah, actually, it also has Eugene Levy, the dad in American Pie. He plays his dad in Goon, too. Somebody's saying Jojo Rabbit is you love it or hate it. No, I didn't really care for the drama parts because I figured you just, I don't know, with what was this called, dramedy? I don't know. I just want people to pick one. Like here, let's either make like a serious movie or World War II, or let's just have fun with it. You know. Yeah, Goon. Yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend that movie. It definitely has violence, and if you like that movie, well, of course, more classic one is Slapshot, or it's either Slapshot or Slapshots. I forget. It's Paul Newman. It's also about like it's about this kind of this hockey team that's just kind of taking things to just extreme levels. So it has a lot of funny moments in that. Okay, well, those are some movie recommendations. Well, yeah, somebody's saying drama, the default genre when the director fails in making comedy or action. Well, dramas can be good. I mean, love The Shawshank Redemption. Uh, like I like serious war movies, like especially like tactical ones, where they're oh yeah, like yeah, if you like World War II movies, was it Where Eagles Dare? I think it's an old one, Clint Eastwood. It's just kind of, or The Dirty Dozen. That one's another classic. Yeah, if like the Bridge on the River Kwai. That's a great movie. Uh, there's some other good war ones. Well, The Great Escape. Yeah, well, somebody saying Full Metal Jacket. I guess Full Metal Jacket, it's good, but look, yeah, well, there's of course Apocalypse Now, but I guess the Full Metal Jacket, I'm by no way saying that's a bad movie. It's just, in a way, that one's kind of like, well, that one's a little more nihilistic than these others. Whereas these ones I'm mentioning, it's a little more adventure. You're going, oh yeah, The Guns of Navarone. That's another old classic one. Um, or I enjoyed A Bridge Too Far. So yeah, lots of war movies. Oh yeah, Kelly's Heroes. Well, that's a great movie. I mentioned that in the Planet Side video. But yeah, the sort of where it's kind of a suspenseful tactical mission that a lot of times in these. So yeah. Yeah, I like the comments. Where Eagles Dare is perfect. Snow and explosions. Yeah, there you go. I actually remember them infiltrating the castle more than I actually almost forgot there was snow. Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. There's the ski lift there at scene. I forgot about that. So yeah, I like a lot of movies like that. They're just sort of these wartime adventure movies. I mean, the thing is, these aren't really, in my opinion, these aren't really glorifying war. It's more just the war's happening, so we have a mission, so we've got to do it, and there's going to be a lot of danger. So it's okay. I should wrap. Oh yeah, there's somebody they went back to watch Tron Legacy and remember Disney had done nothing with it for the past decade. Since in their eyes, commercially failed as a franchise right around the same time they bought Star Wars. So in your opinion, how long are companies going to wait until they decide to revive a dead franchise that previously failed? I have no idea. My guess is if you studied cinema, you might even be able to plot out a chart into this and figure it out. Tron Legacy was a real mix because aesthetically the movie was great. I mean, like the visuals and the direction style and the music. The plot was pretty weak. Like the writing was kind of weak, in my opinion. Although, you know what's great is the teaser for it was so good. But I guess it kind of kept some of the mystery going for it. The teasers where, yeah, you hadn't seen the movie yet, where like he takes out this competitor in the bike race thing, but then you see he's coming in to actually kill him. And for some reason, I just thought of the movie Spartacus. So yeah, that's another good movie. And he's saying like, okay, well, it's just a game. The guy's screaming, and then you see young Jeff Bridges saying, not today. And then up in a tower, you see old Jeff Bridges looking down on him, just like this ominous ruler. It's like, oh wow, what's going on here? And I don't know, that teaser was a lot better than the movie itself. So. But yeah, I mean, so aesthetically, they just nailed it with the Tron Legacy, but the writing, it felt pretty forgettable to me. I think if everything else wasn't so good about the Tron Legacy movie, it would be a very forgettable movie. Because I mean, it's that atmosphere I think that people really liked about it. Because again, great soundtrack, great visuals, it creates a good atmosphere, but it's just like, I mean, I feel like the original Tron was better writing than that, and that wasn't like, blowing you away. But yeah, you could probably track how long it takes for the average kind of reboot attempt to something to happen. I'm still, I haven't checked on that recently. I heard there's going to be a Judge Dredd TV series, like called like Judge Dredd Mega City 1 or something. I don't know if that happened or it's going to happen or if it's in limbo. I hope it happens. Yeah, take another crack at that. You know, or yeah, there was the Mad Max. There was a big gap on that one. That turned out great, the new one. Yeah, I think it got canceled, unfortunately, but the Evil Dead show wasn't bad. I thought that was a pretty good follow-up to the movies. Yeah, but my guess is you could probably plot this in as data and extrapolate when something is most likely to get a reboot. Yeah, that's right. They had the Get Smart movie. I remember. I was surprised. The movie wasn't that great, although the intro is great when he's walking through the gates. That was solid. Like the redoing the introduction, and then the new music theme was great too, or the new rendition of the Get Smart theme. Da, 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 da. Okay, I'm skipping some more questions that I don't have particularly good answers for. Oh, so it sounds like somebody's even more frustrated about not having. Somebody's even more frustrated about not having a holodeck than I am. I'm only mildly frustrated. This person's sounding much more. They're wondering, like, you know, are we going to be able to take this to the next level with VR? I think they're kind of going to want like the tactile stuff. And is it going to be better embraced? Or are we going to have something like in Ready Player One? I doubt we're going to see it to that extent. My guess is, well, I'm just guessing. I think we're just going to see, put it like this. It might become more and more possible that the average person, you know, if you save up, you could afford something like a Ready Player One setup. Oh, wait, no, he had the suit. Okay, the pre-winning, I only saw the movie, I haven't read the book, but the pre-winning the suit Ready Player One, where he has like his own little treadmill and the helmet. I think we could get to that level, but the thing is, that takes time to get into, and it's kind of a niche audience. You know, you have to worry about the motion sickness in some cases, and it's more of a hassle to get into. So it kind of weeds out there's a lot of barriers that weed out the people who aren't really devoted towards it. But I guess we'll see. I haven't been monitoring things. We'll see what, I guess, Half-Life Alyx did to the VR ecosystem, because how many of those people who bought VR for Half-Life Alyx are just going to let it sit on a shelf and not do anything, or they sell it, or that's what hooks them into more VR. So I guess we'll have to look at like at VR adoption over the next couple of years to tell. But, well, that's why I'm kind of tapering my expectations. I'll be happy if I can just walk around all sorts of game worlds. So, I mean, yeah, although I think I don't know if I'll have something as elaborate as what was in Ready Player One, but that sort of dome-shaped 360-degree treadmill, I think, I want to say eventually I'm going to have one of those. Like, you know, I'm thinking of Wayne's World now, where he sees the guitar in the display case. It's like, it will be mine. Oh, yes, it will be mine. Like, that's kind of how I feel about the 360 VR setup, but there's some barriers towards me getting there. It'll make more sense when you see the next video. In my mind, it's almost like a pachinko level of things I'm trying to accomplish to get to that point, because it makes more sense if I've done this, and I shouldn't do this until I've done this, this, and this. And then, okay, this, okay, now I'm working on this aspect. So I'm like 8 levels out from where like I want to be. But keep moving forward, you know. Hey, I made it to an apartment where I'm not breathing mold, so the system works. So good things can happen. Yeah. Okay, well, I'll mention this. Okay, they have quick questions. Have you ever played Faster Than Light? Yes, I have. It's a pretty decent game. If you were an animal other than a human, which animal would you be? I have no idea. I don't really care. However, that makes me think of another movie. If you want like a little more out there, kind of like off-kilter movie, look up The Lobster. It's with Colin Farrell. And that's actually one of the questions they're required to answer in the movie. Yeah. Really, the plot of the movie is the main character has a limited amount of time to find a wife, or else he's going to be turned into an animal. And this is like a normal social thing. So it's a weird movie, yeah. Or yeah, if you want more surreal movies, check out Being John Malkovich. A lot of people probably seen that one. Also, The Big Empty. That's another one. Actually, that one might have John Favreau in it too. I can't remember. I can enjoy surreal comedies, you know. Somebody's saying Mr. Nobody. I think I saw that one. That one, if that's what I'm thinking of, that's like the guy who's like in the future, maybe jumping around in time. That one was like thickly drama laden. That one had like just tons of drama in it. If it's what I'm thinking of, Mr. Nobody. That wasn't really my kind of movie. Oh, so I was saying weird for the sake of being weird. Yeah, I think I might have skipped a lot of Mr. Nobody, if it's what I'm thinking of. Ross, will you ever share some of your MMO stories you received since your birthday video? Absolutely, but I got to catch up first. I got to pick the best ones for you, you know? I'm still behind on that. The birthday thing, you know, when I said in the birthday video, you know, better to regret something you have done than something you haven't done, I knew to a certain extent, like, you know what? I may not be ready for this. I'm going to get flooded. I'm not going to be able to keep up because I'm still stuff, but I'm going to do it anyway and I'll be able to catch up eventually. Well, you know what? It's a gift that's kept on giving. So that was a great video. It's not a great video. That was a great video to make for my birthday because it led to all sorts of cool stuff coming from it. That's what I mean. It's obviously not it's obviously not some masterpiece, you know. It's just me talking about stuff I think is fun and interesting. So, and there's a long question that sounds. I skimmed this earlier. It sounded like it was. It sounds like talk to yourself. It's something like if I haven't made. No, I'm gonna make the movie within 10 years. Don't worry about that, guys. Don't worry. I mean, it's gonna be sooner than that. I don't like stuff that casts doubt that I'm going to do it because that just, it puts me on the defensive. And the thing is, I know me and I know what I'm capable of. So what it's really testing is how much of my current fan base right now do I want to burn making the movie just to come out sooner? That's like the real dilemma I'm considering because they'll be like, Ross has not released a video in how long? What is he even doing? You know, the movie. Where's Freeman's Mind, Ross? Where's Game Dungeon? You know, so it's still a juggling act. I'm gonna make it. I'm not even considering that possibility that the movie's not made within 10 years. It's gonna happen. So let's see. And okay, I'm skipping more questions. I've never really. Okay, somebody's asking about like if I've witnessed weird things like UFO or supernatural event or cryptids, events I can't explain. I want to say no, but I also have a feeling that if I have, I mention it at one time in these video chats. So I saw something kind of neat the other day though. We're higher up here in a tower, so I guess we could see the clouds better. I looked out the window, I almost couldn't believe it. Okay, there were like purplish, this is in the evening, there were purplish, gray clouds. And then there were other clouds that were the most vibrant magenta pinkish I've ever seen. It looked like it was you could have thrown this into like Far Cry Blood Dragon clouds and it would have been fine. You know, I was just like, wow. And I told Magda about it. She was like, all right, Ross. And then she was like, wow. And she said she'd never seen anything like that either. So I don't know what that means in terms of atmosphere when it's just the strongest, most vibrant magenta you've ever seen in the sky against kind of that bluish, you know, grayish, bluish clouds in the background. It looked like the sort of stereotypical retro 80s look, you know, when the stuff coming out that's like trying to be like, you know, sci-fi stuff from the 80s and styling. It looked like that, except it was real life. So that was kind of neat. Okay. What are your thoughts on the original Alone in the Dark and its 2 sequels? I haven't played the 2 sequels. I played the original. It's pretty good. Well, I mean, okay, it's good for the time. I mean, and I get if you're a huge Resident Evil fan like the original and you haven't played that, you kind of owe it to yourself to play that because there's no way, like there's no way Resident Evil didn't take a lot of inspiration from that. However, it also suffers from 90s PC game-itis where there's a lot of obscure stuff that you may not be able to finish the game unless you can figure it out. But yeah, no, it was, although I actually recommend turning off the music. Unlike Resident Evil, which has a great soundtrack, the music in Alone in the Dark original is just kind of like boom, 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 boom. Like it's just load up some the ominous noise like wind blowing or something, and that'll be better background for the game to get more into the mood. Because it can be scary, but the music's not going to help with that. Okay, finish. Someone's asking about Linux. Linux will definitely get some attention in the next video, and more attention later. So it's coming. It's coming. It's unfortunately had to wait in line like a lot of other things. I don't have the new VR set up yet because I don't want to do that until I'm on Windows 10. I don't want to switch to Windows 10 until I made this next video that's coming out. So there's a procedure here. Somebody's asking my take on software and software licenses. Does it make a big difference as to whether something's free and open or closed? I'm sort of an end results person. Like if the software is doing fine and it's great and it's closed source, well, that's not a big deal to me. Whereas if it being closed source is creating, it's obvious the fan base wants more out of it. And this would open up so many doors if it could be opened up. Yeah, I kind of wish it was open. I mean, that happens a lot in games in particular. Like there's tons of games. I bet a lot of people could list games that even if they don't code, there's games they wish they could be open source because they know that would open up a lot of possibilities with them. So, yeah, I mean, it's not that it doesn't, I guess, it's not that it doesn't matter to me. I'd of course like it all. I guess, yeah, the simplest answer that accurately reflects how I feel is I'd like everything to be free and open and not worry about copyright. And I'd like everybody to be able to eat and have food and shelter. I mean, yeah, eat and food. You get what I mean? So, you know, it becomes a more complicated problem sometimes. You know, where you may not think it's related, but if it's like if copyright's too lax, then some people actually can't make a living. So it's like, let's solve all the problems, is my attitude. I haven't played that Riot game yet, but will eventually. Okay, this was asked last time, so I'm skipping that. Okay, this is a question I kind of answered earlier about the riots. Yeah, I actually feel like, even though I tend to ramble and repeat myself, and I apologize about that for everybody who's listening, because I just have the chat here. It's not as easy for somebody else to keep me in check like a normal conversation, so I kind of drift off more into insanity than I would normally. I feel like I answered that with a minimum of just rambling on and losing my thought process and everything. So I'm pretty pleased with how that turned out with me. You got to hear all my thoughts on that, and there was a minimum of me just completely rambling the way I normally do for that I'm capable of, I think. And you know what? Every time I think of this, I keep thinking of the movie From Dusk Till Dawn, where, you know, the character says, all right, ramblers, let's get rambling. You know? Okay, ramblers, let's get rambling. Okay, I'm skipping some more. Let's see. Oh yeah, somebody just asked. Well, yeah, I kind of answered that. So skipping some more. Let's guess that's why these are at the bottom. Again, if it's a question I think is great, then I think I saw one earlier that I missed, but now I even forgot what that was about. Oh well. Well, I guess if it's a burning question, you can keep resubmitting it until people vote it up and it eventually gets answered. Okay, so I'll start. Yeah, and some people are beating it to the punch. They're asking the. Okay, so yeah, you put 3 equal signs in front of your question, and I'll try to answer some of the live chat before I go. Yeah. Oh, okay. Well, the same. Keeping away from the controversial points. You know, I'm not against talking about something controversial if I feel like I really know what I'm talking about. You know, that's the key. I mean, like, look, the games as a service thing, that could be controversial. Some people, well, I mean, that kind of flies against the accepted way of doing things with licenses, except I realize it hasn't been challenged, you know? Okay, we got a thank you from Australia. Okay, hold on. Okay. Has Daniel, the subtitles guy, contacted you? He seems to be in a pretty bad situation, what I can infer in a Reddit thread. Oh, geez. No, he hasn't. I hope he's doing okay. Yeah, these are times to survive, you know? I hope he's doing all right. Oh, okay, I'll drop some piece of advice, which it's not that it will stop it, but it might make it less worse. Apparently, for the pandemic, people with vitamin D deficiencies, it can hit them 6 times harder, I read somewhere. So if you think you're maybe not getting enough sun or vitamin D from what you eat, maybe take some pills on that. Again, it's not that it'll protect you, it's that it might protect you against things getting even worse. So I've been trying to do that. So yeah, or you're like 6 times more vulnerable or something. Is the game and HROT something you're looking forward to? Is it Quake, Chasm, The Rift like FPS where you're a Czech soldier stationed in Prague during an unspecified disaster like Chernobyl and fighting communist themed horrors? It all depends on that atmosphere, how it looks. Because, I mean, Quake, that can kind of go either way. Like, I feel like Quake's really on the edge there where, you know, it leans a little bit to the left and like, okay, this looks like some cool heavy metal stuff where let's blast the enemies. And you go a little bit to the right, oh, this is just sort of ugly, you know, with the palettes and everything and the level design. So depends on how it looks. So yeah, maybe. Do you know of a game called Gunman Chronicles? Yes, I am aware of it. I haven't played it. The screenshots never grabbed me. It always kind of had that sort of desert-y feel to it. But yeah, look, that one gets some attention because that was one of the few Gold Source engine games to make it to commercial level. So there weren't a lot of those, you know. Actually, same's kind of true of Source, really. I mean, there weren't mods, but if you had superpowers, would you rather they be biological, magical, or cybernetic? I guess probably magical, because then because definitely not cybernetic, because then you gotta get stuff implanted in you. I don't know if I want that, but And biological, well, maybe it breaks down or it acts as a threat towards you, but magical, you can just bend the rules to whatever you want. So, yeah. Seem to watch a lot of movies. Do you prefer to buy them physical or digital? Or just rent them? I tend to rent. It's rare that I bought. Actually, that's one I want to see, actually. That got me thinking. The FP2. Yeah, yeah, the FP is one of those, it's a comedy slash sci-fi, ludicrous sci-fi movie. Yeah, it's about it's about gang warfare in the future where everybody talks little okay, I better not be careful what I say there, but it's, if you think you might like it, they have like the first like 20 or the first 10 minutes for free online, and in my opinion, it only gets better. But yeah, it's one of the, now that's a movie you might love or hate. Yeah, if you're easily offended, do not watch that movie. So. Yeah, it's about these future gang warfare that settles things by Dance Dance Revolution. I think I forgot that part. So, what do you like and dislike the most about your fan base? I think I like how my fans come back. If it's been a while for a movie, you know, I never know. Like, I'm probably my own worst enemy on this, where I think that, like, I have this feeling in my head that like a critical mass of my fans are gonna leave if I don't come out with a video they like within a certain time span, and then my career will never recover, and then I'm in big trouble. Maybe I'm just imagining that and I'm set for life and don't even know it, or maybe that's completely valid. So, however, I really do like how I think I've probably lost all the short attention span people. So, you know what? I might have a fan base in the millions if I was just coming out every week and had my act together and could magically figure out how to come out with stuff, quality stuff faster. So I really like that, I really like how I have long-term fans, so that I've had a few people tell me that they don't care how long it takes me to make videos, they'll keep watching it. I feel that way about several YouTubers, and I believe them. However, I'm not sure that's enough to sustain me, so that fear kind of keeps me a little on edge. What do I dislike about the fan base? I don't know. I guess the same thing. They imagine fear in my head that, like, if I don't come out with stuff fast enough that people like, then that's it. I'm abandoned and I'm in trouble. So yeah. So my imagined perception of the exact same thing. So yeah, it's like the same answer for both. Well, okay. A double for things I like. I like how fans will kind of come through on just this cool stuff, this obscure stuff that I never would have thought would have happened, like the Test Drive 3 maps, or I really did get a bunch of people emailing me about like music suggestions or MMO stories. Man, like that's something where, yeah, I'm sure I could probably find some MMO stories on my own, but making a big video about it, it's like I get tons of this stuff. That stuff's like gold to me. So, I mean, like, so I can kind of get these kind of I can get this information on this sort of priceless, to me, information or help that's not that big a deal necessarily if it's like the right people working on it, but like connecting the dots on that. Like, I absolutely love that about having a fan base. So yeah, and you guys can kind of keep me in check if I abuse it too much, but I don't know. You're getting a pretty kind of unfiltered thoughts from me on this. It's like the stuff I'm after. Well, hell, you'll see in the next video. It's going to be some more of that, but it's another thing where this isn't just me that I think is that it's probably a minority of people, but I think people find this. I think some people find this interesting. What I have coming out. Okay. Is there any legal updates since the previous chats? Oh, about mentioning games as a service. Not official ones. I mean, at some point I need to make a games as a service follow-up video, but it's just going to be an update. I would say the biggest thing, you know, I was thinking about it some more because I feel like my biggest, I don't think opponent's the right word. Let's say devil's advocate. when discussing this in like a legitimate, like well-reasoned manner might have been like Leonard French and the Lawful Masses. So I was kind of, I'm sure he meant completely well, but he was kind of like, well, he was cutting down more of the Delicious arguments, I think, more than mine specifically. I mean, I was referencing that article, taking some of it, but I realized I need to rewatch it, what was said, but I'm not sure. Okay, one point where I feel like it's getting overlooked is I think he himself on his podcast said that, like, if you were to just shut down a game after like a couple weeks, let's say 2-3 weeks, you release the game, oh, it doesn't do well, okay, well, we ran out of money for the servers, all right, so the game's bricked after 2-3 weeks. If I'm not mistaken, is either he or else someone else on his podcast, who's also a legal expert, said that they agree. They think that would be fraud. Oh, so that would be fraud. However, if it's after, let's say it's a year later, no, that's not fraud. Because, okay, so in the first instance, it's fraud because the consumer, in both cases, the end user license agreement saying they can shut down at any time. So yeah, that's not a legal document. However, that does demonstrate the intent of the publisher, right? So the publisher's saying, you know, buyer, caveat emptor, buyer beware. We could shut down tomorrow. We could shut down 10 years from now. We're taking no liability on that. Okay, well that's their intent. Even though it's not a legal document, that does establish their intent pretty clearly to the consumer. Okay, that didn't change after a year. They said that after 2 weeks versus after a year. But apparently what did change is apparently after 2 to 3 weeks, what we're measuring for the standard of fraud is a functioning game, as in somebody has a reasonable chance to play it. Whereas once we go to a year, suddenly that's no longer a standard. No, it's not fraud because you still have your client, and even though you own a perpetual license, you are free to run that client even though it's bricked and nobody would ever want to run that. Nobody would ever pay money to run for the $60 to run a bricked client that's effectively worthless. But it's like, well, wait a minute, we changed our standards, what we're measuring here. So it's almost like we're not even in disagreement that it's fraud. We're in disagreement as to what time span has passed before it no longer is fraud. I'm saying never, and he's saying this ambiguous, I say he's saying, I think his interpretation of the law is saying, I don't think he has like an agenda to like stop games from being preserved. He's saying that it's this ambiguous territory between like a few months or something. But it's like, why does that even change what we're measuring? It's like, no, if he himself is saying that's fraud, well then we're not even in disagreement, it's fraud. We're just in disagreement, when does it stop being fraud? So yeah, that's what I'll probably mention doing the follow-up video. So I guess you got a preview of that. And again, the biggest thing that's changed is that court case in France. Like in U.S. law, it's not looking good. I'll say that. It's not that there's no argument to be made here, it's more there's what the law says, and then there's what happens in reality. And that's the part that I think there may not be any chance here. It's not because there's no opening in the law. It's because there may not be any chance in reality for that happening in the U.S. So yeah, if you want, watch the Dead Game News, Valve versus France or something. That was the title of it. Okay, should keep going. Okay, so it says, do you support Black Lives Matter? It's kind of an ambiguous thing. I mean, I guess the best way to answer it is generally yes. However, I feel like that won't solve the problem. Or it will only solve part of the problem. It's the same thing. Like, okay, like let's say we ended racism like overnight. We have a magic lamp. We can just do that. We still have so many other problems that it's. Well, maybe it could. Okay. That's what I was thinking of. Okay, no, I misworded that. Black Lives Matter could solve the could severely, not severely, could drastically have an impact and making the impact of police brutality and systemic racism better. Like it could solve a lot of the problem. I see that potential there. So sure, I can support that. However, I feel like we have even bigger problems coming at us. And so it's like, I support that, but I can't, my mind tends to drift towards the stuff that solves things for like the maximum number of people. So like even like, okay, I mentioned with the basic income, and I'm sure people are going to spin that in every way they want to because the internet's supercharged on these topics, but like going with the universal basic income. Okay, let's back up to that again. Let's say that happened in March. And again, like, let's say, yeah, that did not solve police racism or anything like that, right? However, let's say you had a boss that was really racist and was kind of taking advantage of you, like making you work extra hours without pay, making you take all the crap jobs at work instead of shifting it around, but you know you need that job. Well, now you can quit. So that just gave you a lot of agency. And then, or let's say you live in a neighborhood where the police profiling is out of control. They arrest innocent people, beat them. Like you're worried for like your friends' lives or them going to prison or something. Well, maybe now you could move and still be okay because you have money to go to another place. So it's not, so that did not solve racism, but that gave so much more ammunition towards trying to like defang it, if you see what I'm saying. And that helps everybody else who's in oppressive conditions that maybe aren't related to racism. Like maybe there's no racism going on where you live, but you're just dirt poor, and you're just not, you don't know how you're gonna make ends meet, or you're in a dangerous area where there's maybe not much racism, but there's still a lot of crime, or something like that. So it's like I really like everybody wins kind of solutions. So it's like I'm not against Black Lives Matter, but I feel like and the problem is very real, but it's like I want to go for like the biggest solutions, and like that's where my mind tends to drift. So, and again, I'm sure the internet's gonna keelhaul me for saying that, but that's hopefully the reasonable people understand where I'm coming from. This, like, again, I've said before, like I'm really utilitarian in my politics and everything. It's like, well, hey, what if we can do stuff that maybe helps, the black community? See, that's the thing. When you help everybody, the people who need help the most, they feel the biggest impact. And well, I guess not by coincidence, a lot of that's going to be a lot of the black community. So they're going to receive some of the most help for a measure that might help everybody a little bit. I heard there's a quote before I heard that said, what? It's like, everybody does better when everybody does better, and that, I think that really sums up like where my politics and outlook lie. So, okay, I think I've gone on that long enough, but hopefully the reasonable people in the audience understand where I'm coming from. So somebody wants tips on hair. John, well, I guess that kind of depends on your hair makeup. Whether it's like more curly or wispy or whatever. I just kind of shampoo it. I mean, that's about it. I brush it occasionally. I mean, I do wash it every day just because, I mean, I know some girls don't do that, but like I'm exercising, I'm sweating every day. I need a shower each day, so I'm sweating right now. Jeez. Well, we'll have the door shut because I don't want to disturb Maggie too much. What anime do you like? Have you watched in the past 2 years? I don't really watch much anime at all. I think the only one I've watched in the past 2 years has been like the Castlevania ones that were from Netflix. I saw that. That was pretty good. Well, I'm a huge Castlevania fan. Like I like that atmosphere, the music, and a lot of the gameplay. So that's. And it helped that it was very well done. So it didn't go like anime overload for me, which is the like the melodramatic poses and all the weird mannerisms and stuff. Let's see. If Freeman were a passenger or officer member on the Titanic, what would he do? Well, of course, I write Freeman for like maximum entertainment value. So I probably have him just go full on screaming and panicking well before everyone else, getting into a fight over someone about getting the life raft out and early. So Freeman might survive actually. And he would let people. So yeah, I would maybe make Freeman like once he realizes there's a problem, like he just doesn't hold back, or yeah, he might either survive or he might get like beaten to death like in fights for the life. But the point is he'd be ahead of the curve on the life raft issue. And I think he would be cool with other people coming on board, but no, we need to go now, shove, and then just punch someone who tries to stop him, that sort of thing. So yeah, he might get off, he might be okay, he might get beaten to death, or he might drown in like whatever provisional jail I guess there was. And I'm assuming there might have been some place they could lock like a criminal up on the Titanic. I don't know the details of it. So it would probably be one of those three. Because it's like he has the right idea, but he's so caustic and panicky about how he goes about it that might undermine his own efforts, I think, is the way I see it. Well, someone's saying Freeman's one violent mofo. Well, it's like he sees this as his survival. Like, almost anybody can get violent when their own survival comes at stake. The thing is, Freeman is so wound up mentally that even if there's not a real risk, he might be like that. But he perceives the threats as being real, So. Okay, let's see. Ross, do you believe in free will? Damn, I want to make this is like that civil protection script that I haven't made yet, that's voiced, and I just need to animate. Yeah, just need to animate it. Yeah, and I won't explain why. How about that? This is something that's given some thought, and it may not be what you think of my answer. So yes, because I want that video to explain why, because I still want to make that episode. Do you think a lot of society's problems can be fundamentally caused by death denial? I don't. Okay, other than face value, I don't know what that means. And no, I actually would argue the opposite. That if, actually I was gonna bring up that point in a civil protection idea I had, where, they were sort of gonna do propaganda for City 17. They're up answering questions, and they were gonna say well, okay, I might still do this, but okay, so I guess the idea is we're not thinking ahead far enough. If we're not thinking, like, what about our policy on friggin' anything suggests we're thinking ahead 100 to 200 years? I mean, I don't see much, or 50 even. I mean, it's like, so I think that's a much more huge problem that we act like there's no tomorrow almost. So, what's the relationship with 4chan and boards overall? I've been on 4chan maybe 3 times or something. I've barely been on it. It looked pretty chaotic. Yeah, it's like, I see that almost kind of like the digital equivalent of like dumpster diving, because it's like, well, it looked like there was like useful information on there, but there was also like a lot of like vile stuff just mixed in the middle of it. And it's like, yeah, there's always going to be some of that on the internet, but it's like, I'd rather have like a little more curated information, like a forum. Like, I bet if I went to a soundtrack forum, I bet the discussions would be a lot more civil and more on point about the soundtracks. So like, oh yeah, well this is good, but this kind of sounds like this one, and just less sort of garbage kind of rolled into it. But that was, I've barely been on 4chan at all, so I'm largely ignorant of it. Uh, I mean, I think the only times I even came across it was when it was like related to a topic I was interested in. Then it was like some archive of it, and then it was like the mix of just it's there's also something going on there that I don't even know how to explain it. Again, this might be this situation where there's like a German word for it, um, where okay, there seems to be like okay, if you look at like the total, again, this is my very limited exposure. Maybe it's changed by now. If you look at like the general responses, this sort of happens in like any sort of forum or online culture. There'd be sort of like certain general inside jokes or patterns of saying things, and or you know, look, even in this one, like people will bring up like I have to make the movie, or talk about other like bad games. Like I think like in my forums, there's like a general sort of kind of like lighthearted approach to people liking games. You know, there's sort of a vibe you get from that. And the vibe I sort of got from a lot of these comments is people would say some things that were like kind of pretty obnoxious, and there was like a recognition that it was part of a joke, but I got this vibe that like the people saying it also believed this was true, and in some cases that was like really not. And so, but however, that seemed like to be like the wisdom of the crowds that like, I feel like there was like some half-truths going on that were taken as truth, and there was joking about it also. So it was like an extra layer of joking thrown in there, but at the same time, it wasn't exactly the part that was the joke. It didn't change like the fundamental thoughts that they were having. I think there was like a lot of like, in my opinion, like misguided thoughts. So I don't know. That's just real sort of like knee-jerk response vibe that I was getting at. So yeah, somebody's saying yes, it's troll culture. I guess yeah, I mean there's that too, but I guess there's trolls, and then there's people who are like actually drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, look, I understand what there's people make. Look, I can, a certain part of me enjoys people making comments to just stir everything up and get everybody crazy and arguing and everything. I can appreciate that at a certain level. But on the other hand, there's people who are maybe doing that, and then they also believe something else that's like, it's like, wow, these people, they're getting maybe some bad information on some things, even if they have insight on other things, and the whole thing struck me as like a feedback loop. So it just kind of gets amplified. So I have no idea what comes out of that, but I don't know. It didn't make me want to stick around. So somebody put, it's not a lie if you believe in it, Jerry. I mean, well, I mean, it's the sort of thing where explaining the reality, I mean, this is just for topics I know about, you know. Explaining the reality of something could be quite complicated, and it's really easy to understand why people think that's false, and like the simpler explanation's more accurate, you know. There's a great non sequitur comic I saw where it has where it has this signpost, there's like a line of people, and there's this sign that says, what, true, and there's a fork in the road. One says, true, but you're true but complicated, and there's like a few people walking on like this long winding path, and the other one says like simple but wrong, and then there's like a bunch of people going on that path. So I think that was sort of the vibe I got, and this was like years ago that I looked at it. I'm not sure I've been to 4chan in years, so I imagine it's quite what's the word I'm looking for? But plenty of energy going on there. I imagine they're fired up as ever. So, okay, yeah, let me answer a few more questions. Oh yeah, geez, I passed 3. Okay, just like 3 more questions. I'm cutting it. Sorry, guys. I'd have to think about my favorite physics engine moment. Oh wow, somebody's assigning my Robot Jaws video. Okay, well, uh, uh, go ahead, but you know, it's understand. I'm just some guy who came up with this. This wasn't the extent of, you know, painstaking research, and this is just kind of me reading news articles and being aware of science fiction and some history and kind of guessing how humanity can kind of play things out. So, you know, I'm not an authoritative source. But yeah, well, the part I think has value is you know, we should do something because even if automation isn't as bad as we think, the system's still kind of breaking down with not having enough jobs for everyone, you know? So I have watched The Lighthouse. It wasn't really my thing. Oh yeah, what's my opinion on cosmic horror? Can be good, yeah. Yeah, The Lighthouse was like kind of more artsy and slow droning, and I don't know. It just wasn't my style. Are you friends with Gun Jesus? I don't know Gun Jesus. Sorry. Neuralink, early adopter? No, no. I might chicken out when it comes to like neural implants. I may not trust. There's been enough testing. Like if they've been around 100 years, I might be cooler with it. But okay, well I said 3 questions. I'll try and get a few more quick. Oh man. So he's asking about the pitching a game Kenshi. Several people have pitched Kenshi to me. I'll talk about that another time. A couple of months ago, you were talking about graphic designers. Is that offer still on? Well, I have some help now, so I mean, I guess it could be. See, this is where see. Unfortunately, this is like maybe my Achilles heel. I'm bad at managing things like all everything that's coming in. If I'm also doing other projects, like if that's all I'm doing, then sure I can manage fine. But otherwise, you know, I could use a secretary or manager in a sense. If somebody's asking, can you support you better during this time, more donations? I think I'm doing okay. I mean, yeah, well, so I probably shouldn't say that because, yeah, I think I'm doing fine. I'll probably watch the donations like go down like 60% and panic. So, yeah, I guess this is the thought that like bounces in my head just all the time. So far, so good. I'll say that. But like I said, we have riots in all major cities. We have unemployment that's the worst, that's probably worse than the Great Depression. And the stock market is doing just fine. So I think there's more coming. You know, I mean, I think this could get a lot worse. Do you use Discord? Very rarely. I probably should eventually. I found it a little overwhelming and distracting, actually. See, it's not that I can't hack this stuff. It's like I weigh in my brain, do I want to be spending my time on this, or should I make another video, or, you know, take a break and watch a movie or something? You know, it's like it's competing against all that. So, yeah, social media has gotten. Yeah, well, if you've seen Twitter, on my Twitter, you can see how often I post. It's like, I don't know, once a week or average maybe. Because I might post like 2 or 3 times a week, but then I won't post for like a month. So, is there anything that be done about subscription software and forced updates? Sort of. That's the secret weapon I'm working on. That's gonna get some video. Are you aware of cyber feudalism? No. Basically, how all our megacorp. Oh, I think I forgot a question earlier, but man, I'm running on too long now. All the megacorps are pushing us towards renting or streaming content instead of our own media devices. Oh yeah, I have heard of that concept. Yeah, I think that's horrible, but secret weapon. Okay, well, the secret weapon isn't coming, but I'll lay out the plans for the secret weapon. How about that? That's the better way to put it. So I'm not gonna like have a video then it's all solved. It's more like I'm seeing a light here. And sorry, I know it's a little cheap holding this back from the audience here, but you know, it's the one the showsmanship for the videos, you know. Okay, somebody's asking. The chat can probably answer why I created Freeman's Mind in the first place. I've answered that a few times. I'm trying to get through stuff now, so I gotta get. Look, I have a lot of work to do if it's gonna be out like Tuesday. I mean, so. Okay, somebody linked to apparently an article saying what I was saying about the riots and stuff. So. Somebody wants to recommend animates. I'm not. The vast majority of anime is not going to appeal to. It's like the style that's I'm not into, you know. Ross is a bit discoordinated. Yeah, yeah. Actually, yeah. I was thinking about that in the past. Okay, I'll end on this. I mentioned that in the past that you know I realized in RPG terms my agility is probably above average. However, I'd have a trait that I'm prone to critical failures. So it's like, it's pretty good until it's not. Then it's really bad. Then there's big accidents. Yeah, my wife suspected I might have minor brain damage, is her words. Because I'll just go, I'll just bump into things just full force sometimes and just, but at the same time, I can like balance a book on my finger, spinning, you know, can stand on one foot pretty gracefully. I've done gymnastics before, but it's like, man, I remember this. I remember as a kid, like this kind of scaring me that like knowing that if I were to just like run across the yard, like I could not depend on myself not tripping. Like even if I'm like really concentrating. And like, oh, I felt, man, well, that's why part of my tongue is cut from an accident like that. That's kind of the result of this scar here. A couple others. I mean, I've fallen down stairs like majorly, like twice as a kid. Like so it's better than it used to be, but man, like that's been a lifelong thing. It's like, I can actually pull off pretty good. I climbed lots of trees. I was pretty agile with that. But it's like, man, when I mess up, I mess up. Like, so it's, yeah. So I'm like I would have like a 7 or 8 out of 10 in agility, maybe 7, but I'm prone to critical failures. So like, it's like, it's pretty good when it works. So, okay, so I'll end on that. Well, why not try streaming regularly on, okay, well, that's a good question. I'll mention that. Why not try streaming regularly on Twitch? It's also quite lucrative because I'd rather make more worthwhile videos that, I don't know, I just have this drive, man. Like, it's like with the movie, I have to make the movie. It's like, I'd rather put out stuff that I consider quality, whereas no offense to anyone on Twitch, because I don't even watch it that much in the first. In fact, I don't watch it almost at all. It's just sometimes see highlights. That's almost like junk food for me. It's like, well, it's like if you need something going in the background, sure. You know, some people that appeals more to. You know, for me, I'm just like, no, I want to like kind of make something better. You know. So, but some people, but hey, if I say this. Hey, some people out there are amazing at improv, like improv comedy. I'm not, but if I was, then their Twitches might even be better than some of my videos, you know. So I'm not trying to put down people on Twitch. It's more like, for me personally, it's just not. It doesn't work that much for me, and so. Plus, I feel like okay, well, I mentioned before, I feel like there's more of a shelf life as far as a career towards making great videos. Some people might be able to do Twitch up until their old age. Other people, it's like maybe once they start getting middle-aged, they lose most of their fan base and then they're, you know, up a creek. So, whereas there's not much of an age cap on directing videos. So I should be able to keep that train going. All right, I have got to get this video made. Man, this went on a long time too. Thanks for showing up. Again, if you're pretty disappointed by this next video, after it's coming Game Dungeon. I'll have more Game Dungeon. Once I'm a little more set up, I'll get Freeman's Mind off the ground again. It's just go, 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 go. That's what I gotta do. Okay, so I'll see you.